It's podcast time, and we're blowing shit up. I don't really like that, but I'm going to stick with it. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, check out the link to Holler Brew. Holler Brew 24 is in a couple weeks. We're getting serious. Holler Brew is October 26th. Happy Holler. We got a street fair. We got a soapbox derby. We got a rock concert. We got a dog parade. We got a marching band. We got all the cool things. It's a great thing to do. If you got your kids, bring your kids out. We'll have a kids zone with bounce houses and trunk or treat and some of the other fun stuff like that. Almost an Agreement is on all your favorite podcast providers. While you're there, give us a 5-star review. Text a link to the show to your friends. Anything you can do to help us get the word out and keep doing what we're doing. We're running out of time for election cycle, so we're going to talk elections, I'm sure, among other crazy stuff that's going on in this town today. So, yeah, social medias, I did that. I don't know if I did it or not. I got distracted by my bad thumb joke. We'll get back to this. So, good show. Here we go. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
What's new with ya?
Oh, not much.
Cool. Yeah, so I can't not start with my bad bomb joke and follow it up with what's actually going on with that. I sent you a link to the early version of the story, and then I sent you a screenshot
when was that
from
press
Facebook.
Release?
I don't remember the one I sent you.
That seemed like the more like up to date from anything I'd read.
Yeah, the one the screenshot I sent you earlier today was off of the city's Facebook page. And then the story I sent you from WBIR was last night is when I sent it to you, and I don't know when it was last updated on WBIR. But yeah, so a 5-foot square steel box got dropped off at the recycling center full of dynamite. Nobody knew it was full of dynamite. They took a torch to it to cut down the big steel pieces into small manageable pieces, and then it kept smoldering and caught fire, and KPD came in, and the fire department came in, and nobody knew exactly what was in the box. Although it's strongly inferred that there is dynamite in the box. I think the most recent release says that there is dynamite in the box. And they've evacuated like a half-mile radius from that spot. So like the Lonsdale neighborhood has been evacuated. They're hanging out in Chilhowie Park, among other places.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. There's a lot to this story that I'm waiting to hear the details of. I've got lots of crazy conjecture that I like to go down the rabbit hole on what could be happening. But yeah, so that's the gist of the story. Is that we don't know who dropped this box off. We don't know where this box came from.
They said it had been there for several days, probably.
Right. It was at the recycling center, and like I said, it was a 5-foot cube of steel, a cube box cube, whatever, of steel. And so, like, you know, your recycling place, you need to break that down into manageable units so that you can send it somewhere to get smelted, or you could sell it as, you know, a 5-foot square plate's probably worth a couple bucks.
Right. Just
like that, but not many people are in the market for a 5-foot steel cube, but they might be in the market for a 5-foot steel plate. And so they're cutting it down into more manageable whatever with a torch, to which they turn the torch off and smoke continues to bellow out of this box. And so, like, my first question is, A, where did the box come from? My immediate follow-up question is, was it a sealed box? Like, was it welded shut? Like, I don't think they've said. I'm really confused on that part, because I would think, you know, there's two logical explanations for the origin of the box. Like, one, realistically, the most likely logical, reasonable explanation is it came from either a very old construction company that maybe had been building that had done some demolition in maybe in clearing some mountains out of the way to get a road through back in the day, and this box was in like the corner of their construction lot and just sat out there forever, kind of thing, and that's where the box came from.
Right.
Or a more current version of the same thing. Dynamite is still currently used for lots of things commercially. They just blew up one of the buildings in Vegas this last couple days ago.
I think it was the Mirage.
Yeah, so you know they still do those kind of things, and there's companies that are pros and very specialized in how to use these explosives for a very, you know, precise whatever. And so, like, I don't know. Like, this is one of those, like,
that was my guess, was a construction site.
They're saying there's at least 200 sticks in there, and I just feel like if it's a more current version of it, I feel like I
don't think they've tried to put out numbers.
The ATF should have some knowledge of it. One of the stories I saw definitely said 200. approximately 200 or exceeded 200.
I think I'm just going off that press release.
But yeah, so
I'm surprised to see how they said they'd get rid of it.
Yes, that was actually literally what I was going to say. I was telling the kids at dinner tonight. I said, "Did anybody learn anything cool this week, even though we weren't in school?" And everybody's like, "Bleh." And I was like, "Well, I learned a couple cool things this week. Number one is if you ever want to destroy dynamite, you soak it in diesel and burn it."
So I guess it just burns like really hot once, like the nitrate or whatever is inside of it.
I think it's. I think chemically the contents of diesel fuel like chemically break down the dynamite and it turns into like a tar.
Huh.
That's what seems logical to me. My wife, who is a much more capable chemistry person than I am, is like, yeah, that makes sense. I can't remember what she said it was, but like the folates or there's something in diesel that will break down the glyceride, the part 2, the nitroglycerin part. It breaks that down and it'll turn. The way she described it is that if you put them together, it will turn into like a thick, oily ooze. Probably still flammable, but not explosively flammable.
Right.
But yeah, that was like I try not to interrupt. So if you guys listen to the Compass podcast too, I generally don't interrupt their podcast unless it's important. And I had to interrupt and say, "Wait a minute, what? That seems really counterintuitive to me." Like I understand that there's chemistry involved, and I don't understand the chemistry. I get that part, but you're pouring gasoline on a stick of dynamite and then lighting it on fire, and that's how you fix it.
I was surprised they hadn't like hauled it off. I mean, I guess not knowing what it is, you don't want to like take it through, in more populated areas or whatever, or onto the interstate, etc.
Yeah, like there's nowhere to go that you're not driving through some of the most populous parts of Knoxville. So I don't know. It's interesting. And so, like my conjecture on it. Do you have a fantasy story? I've already constructed a fantasy story on what happened.
No,
you haven't constructed one. Do you want to hear mine?
Go for it.
Okay, I think my guess is that it's a construction company. Or it came from a construction company that periodically does some demolition work when they're going through, again, like cutting through a mountain to put a road up or something like that. But it's not something that they do on a regular basis. And they bought some dynamite and put it in this storage container out in the back of their lot somewhere, and they haven't had a job that used it for a while. And some guy that worked for him, who was in a tough spot, needed some money, just saw that big steel box that's been sitting out there for the whole 5 years he's been working for him. It just sits way out there in the corner of the lot, and he gets a buddy. He's like, "Hey, we could jack that and go. I mean, that's got to be worth a couple $100 to steal just by itself or whatever. We could steal that and go recycle it and make a couple bucks, and I can get my bills paid." Him thinking it was just an empty box of steel. Like, not maliciously, other than he needed some money, and he thought it was basically just sitting back there falling apart anyway.
I thought the story kind of made it sound like it was just kind of like dropped off and kind of left there. So didn't make it sound like they had, record of someone dropping off that box and someone getting so much money for an estimated amount of weight.
I hadn't heard anything about how it arrived other than it was there. Yeah, the second presser I sent you, sorry. It says it was initially reported that the box contained around 200 sticks of dynamite. Technicians have not verified how many. So they think there's about 200 in it, but they haven't actually gotten a chance to count it yet.
That's all I was saying.
Okay.
You were like, 200, and I'm like, I don't think they've said.
I don't know. It's so confused. It's such a confusing story. But that's why my guess on the story is that it's something like that.
Well, I guess something kind of similar. I thought maybe someone had bought a commercial property, and there was just like a bunch of stuff on it.
Sitting there. Right.
And they were like, haul it off, just go drop it off at the recycling place. Like, just get it off property.
Yeah.
Because either they want to demolish it or, they want to get rid of it.
Right. We don't have to pay, we'd have to pay somebody to come get it and take it off the property and do all that kind of stuff.
Or it could be something like that. It could be somebody knew that it was a bunch of dynamite and they knew that they were going to have to pay, however much money it is to properly dispose of it. Yeah. If it was past date or...
But I still think, it's one of those, to me, I would think with the way a lot of, regulations on a lot of companies and especially hazardous material kind of stuff works, is I think if you had the ability to purchase dynamite in that kind of quantity... You probably have to have a bond. You probably have to be bonded.
Most likely, yeah.
Because most gas stations, if you want to build a gas station, you have to get a bond that is enough that if you vacate or go bankrupt or anything like that, that the cost of pulling the tanks out of the ground and getting that piece of property back to whatever is already set up in that bond before you even get started.
Yeah.
And I would think that if you're in an industry that has the need for dynamite like that you probably have to have a bond like that in place if you're going to be able to carry that much dynamite and do that kind of work. Because it's like, okay, cool. You know, you need it for the job. We have no problems with that. Will you please get a bond that says, in the need to dispose of this, if you don't use it or whatever, you have prepaid basically the cost, or well, you've put a down payment on the cost of remediation if we need it.
I don't know.
I mean, that would be my thought on it. I don't know. And I would think that the ATF would have records of a buy that big on who bought, like how many people in Knox, really like on your version of it. And I totally think you might be right. You know, it was like somebody bought an old piece of property and it was there. Right, it was just there with a bunch of other shit.
I mean, it sounds like the box was kind of designed to transport that, but you would also think if it was a box that was designed for that, it would be marked on there like danger left and right.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. But again, like if you're like if it was one of those, like it was just some old, like it was just again, let's just go with the construction company premise. If it was an old construction company that had bought this, I would think the ATF record would have record that they had it. And I would think that there would be some sort of paperwork that says, okay, you know, this company has it. They're allowed to have it. We're not saying they're not, but they have it. Right. And if all of a sudden 200 sticks of dynamite just show up in the middle of Knoxville that nobody knows where it came from, it's got to be a pretty short list of people locally that could possibly have come from.
I think it'd be more the company probably has just like a certain amount of explosives just on hand. And they would be like, okay, this job requires 200 sticks, and they would just take 200 sticks out of it.
Right, but I get it.
Out of their own supply, they wouldn't have to actually be like, oh, I need to go somewhere and buy 200
right, but
sticks.
they bought 1,000 sticks because they do that kind of work.
But that's where you wouldn't have a record of where each of that. I mean, the company would probably have internal records of, or you would hope they would keep up with that. With that, they would probably have to keep up with records.
Right, I think that would be true too. But I would honestly believe that if you're a company that does that, there's paperwork from the purchase, and then every time you use it, I bet there's paperwork too that has to be filed.
Right, but it's probably more like just internal paperwork. I don't think it's something they have to. I would
think that if you're going, because if you're going to, because they were doing they're probably still doing. They're on Alcoa Highway. I remember driving through there, and they had the signs that turn cell phones and radios off. The explosives in use or whatever. Explosives in use. Please turn radio and cell phone off.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing those.
You know, and so it's like. I would think that I'm sure there's applications that may not be as far as publicly known as, but I would think the majority of public application is either going to be a major demolition product like we saw in Vegas.
Mining.
Mining would be another one, and then it would be I didn't even think about that one, or a public works project like the Alcoa Highway project. And I would think that if you're going to be blowing shit up right off the side of Alcoa Highway, you have to put paperwork in place to say how much you're using, what kind, and stuff like that has to be submitted to local and state, maybe even federal officials at the time. I would think.
You probably have to at least notify local, especially if they have to shut it down, for fear of debris, going onto Alcoa Highway while they're blasting.
Yeah, I would just say I would think that there would be a significant amount of municipal paperwork, whether it's state, local, or federal, every time you want to launch one off.
Not sure.
Launch one's a poor word, but every time you want to...
Because you would think about it in mining. I mean, if you own that property that your quarry's on or whatever, even if you're just leasing it, I don't think you have to, call the city every time. Be like, hey, we're getting ready to blow up another mountain. It's like, okay, cool. I'm sure we'll hear it here in about 30 seconds. Maybe.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. The mining one's a good angle. I didn't think about the mining angle and quarrying like that angle as much as the two that I went to was
so I would think you'd have to notify local just out of precaution, but as far as letting the state know that hey, we just used 200 sticks of dynamite, just so you guys know. I don't think the state would require notification every time you use it. That
would be a question to ask somebody who knew.
So I think it's more of an internal thing where the state, you probably are required to keep track of, especially with something like that, explosives, or even just any kind of highly caustic acids, bases, etc.
Yeah, I would think so too. Because I remember I worked for Old Dominion there for a little while, and the placard rules, that was one of the biggest hurdles of training was the rules,
different classes or whatever.
Well, depending on what was in the trailer. What I always think is the funniest. You see it all the time. Batesville Casket Company. I guess they're around here somewhere.
What is
Batesville Casket Company?
Maybe.
They have their own trucking fleet. They ship their own. They don't ship it through FedEx or Old Dominion or Yellow or any of the other freight lines. They might still also, but anyway, they always have a corrosive placard on their trailers.
Yeah.
because formaldehyde is a corrosive. But like, it's just like, it's a wooden box. What's corrosive on a wooden box? But they soak them in.
Is formaldehyde corrosive?
I think so. It's corrosive to like metals and stuff. It's not corrosive to people.
I was about to say that's how you preserve people.
Whatever. Right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not formaldehyde, but something that they put in the casket to help keep it from decaying or something like that is corrosive. And so like you always see, like I always saw those with caskets. But anyway, but when I was with Old Dominion, like we had like there was a book that they had on the floor that you could go double check your stuff with. But like it was like, and it was interesting because like Old Dominion's like they're what they call less than truckload. And so, like, you'd have one of their trucks that's mixed with a bunch of different shipments, basically, in it. Right. And so, like,
you still have to have the worst thing in there, basically.
Right. But it also depends on exactly what and how much and stuff like that, too. And so, like, I was telling the story to to Jesse before we started taping today. It's like, when it's just a case of Bic lighters, which is like a 50 count. Like if you had one of those in a truck, it's not that big a deal. But if you had 15 of those in a truck, it's like it becomes like it's a math equation where it's like if the total weight of an explosive exceeds X, you have to put the placard on it. And so like you could theoretically have like a local, little brown truck running around. If it has enough lighters and lighter fluid in it, it would have to carry the placard to drive around technically. Yeah. But which again goes back to the point. Like I can't imagine that this box didn't have a big explosive, a big diamond on the side that said explosives. Like I would, because it again, like you said,
sounds like it doesn't. Especially unless the guy was just completely blind and was like, "I'm gonna just take a blowtorch to it."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or just like again, that was the thing. It's like or if it did, it was just like, well, the assumption is, well, it's here, and the boss told me to cut it down.
Obviously, there's still not explosives in there,
right? Because again, my one of my big questions is, was it a sealed box?
Right.
Like, because.
I'm assuming it was, or else they would have opened it up.
Why wouldn't you have opened it?
Right.
Or if it, and maybe that was like, but why would you seal it in the box if that's what's actually in there? Like that would make it more deadly, I would think.
A lot of questions.
Because right, that would make it more damaging in an explosion if the box was sealed.
Because
then you would have pressure, and the box would break apart, and all the pieces would fly further under pressure. Where if the box...
but if it was sealed up really tightly, it would also kind of contain it to where your explosion wouldn't... Your blast radius wouldn't be as big.
If the steel in it was strong enough to contain it.
Right.
But like if the box like had an open lid or openable lid or whatever, the explosion would blow the lid open, maybe blow the lid off, but all that pressure would release directly up instead of all directions.
Right.
Where if it's a sealed box, I don't know. This is a crazy story. I hope there's a ton of deep dive follow-up on it. I joked with the wife about putting together a 6-episode long form on the whole story of the random exploding cube in Knoxville. Speaking of random cubes in Knoxville,
hasn't exploded.
Not yet. Hopefully, not ever.
You're just gonna burn it.
Where's the? I wonder where the Rubik's cube is nowadays.
Rubik's cube.
Yeah, the World's Fair giant. It was. I believe it was a 5 or 6 foot Rubik's cube.
Did it used to be in World's Fair?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking I might have seen something like that around Gay Street, but I don't know.
I had seen it. It used to, for a while. It was under the interstate there in the the Henley Street downtown exit and all that twisted stuff under 275/40, all that.
Right.
It was under there for a little while, but I haven't seen it in a while. I just think I got to understand that. Like it's like somebody anywhere. Come on, put it somewhere. Same thing with that JFG sign. Like even though, whatever, that JFG sign's in storage somewhere now, which is a bummer. I'd like to see that out somewhere. But at least one of the things that I'd heard on the JFG sign was that it needs to go back on that hill. And it's like, well, I understand that's where it always was, but obviously the new owner of that property doesn't want it there.
Right.
So could we find another place to put it that might look cool and be fun and at least keep some of the history, even though it's not exactly where it always was? But
say they haven't found someone that they can do it cheap enough for.
Yeah.
They're like, sure, you can put it up. It's going to cost you blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, never mind.
But I think that Rubik's Cube just like down there in one of the plazas, like underneath the Sun Sphere.
Why'd they even move it away from World's Fair?
I don't know. It's never been on display as far as I recall since I've moved down here, since the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Like they took it out after the official World's Fair ended, and it just got moved around.
Okay, I was about to say, I'm not sure if I've ever seen it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's another random fun deep dive. Maybe when I get my audience with the mayor on other issues, I'll bring that up and be like, can we get that just somewhere? Like, come on. Like, we just spent, like, remember like a year and a half ago, there was that big thing about the Cradlewood Country Music Park?
Removal of trees.
Right, removal of trees, redoing the landscape to put this weird art project thing in that's from this guy from Brooklyn or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like, so we paid a couple $1 million to this guy to do this art project. Not complaining about that, but we do have a really cool art piece that we could have put somewhere, and that would have cost us like $50, maybe $150.
Right.
And we could have put that out somewhere, and it'd look cool. And it's, you know, signature cool. Like, it's historically relevant to us, and it's just cool. It needs to go out somewhere. All right, put that on my list of shit to do. Maybe I'll see if I can get him to bring it down and put it in the holler. All right. So anyway, that's the crazy explosion thing. Hopefully no actual explosion, but I want to know more. I want to understand the whole story of this. So I don't know if I don't know if the Republicans or the Democrats or some independents are like phishing like mailing lists and stuff like that. But I got maybe the best election text I've gotten so far today. This is new bipartisan leadership for Lincoln. Angelo Capsamalis, state representative for Lincoln Pawtucket. Vote on or before November 5th. Paid for by friends of Angelo Capsamalis. Yeah, I got a District 46. What state is that? Nebraska?
I thought it was Rhode Island.
Rhode Island? Yeah, Rhode Island. It's a Grecian man living in Rhode Island running for his state representative seat number 46 that I got a text for. So I don't know who or how he got my number, but I'm on those kind of lists now.
Just in case you're from Rhode Island, we're going to come back and vote.
Yeah.
We're just, casting the net as wide as we can.
He's a real estate professional. Our state is beautiful and has great, hardworking, common-sense people, but the one-party Democratic rule on Smith Hill, which I guess is their Capitol building. I'm running for state representative to support common-sense bipartisan policies that will serve Lincoln and Pawtucket, Rhode Island, a place of opportunity for everyone. We can get positive. Like, it's the inverse. Like, it's the inverse of an ad here. I mean, he seems to be running as an independent, at least. He's not running as a Republican, but it's a Democratic supermajority state. His opponent, Marianne Shawcross Smith, is nice, but doesn't vote in our district's best interest. She consistently votes with the Democratic leadership who want to raise taxes, fund special interest projects, allow electricity rates to go up, and increase insurance premiums. She also, whatever. I don't really care about his particular policy stuff. I just thought it was hilarious that a guy from Rhode Island is texting me to vote for him.
It looks like it's more of just like an independent mailing list you got this from.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. There's list buys that you could do, and I'm on. I don't know how. I guess I'm on a national.
Just on all the lists,
but I'm on a national list, and instead of whoever did this in his campaign wasn't really paying attention.
Maybe.
And this is a national list because this is why I get both Trump and Harris stuff all the time, and this is why I get all the Massey and well, not Massey, but Bradshaw. And Blackburn and Johnson stuff. Gloria started throwing ads. Have you seen some of the Gloria ads yet?
I've seen one or two, yeah.
She's starting to get serious. I don't know why. Like, if I'm her, I don't know how hard I'm pushing. I don't know how, yes, she should push. I guess she should push Knox County pretty hard because she is local. And even though she is the party that the local county doesn't traditionally vote for, there is something to, not only is our senator from our state, it's from our town. And so there is a little bit of homerness to that for people.
Yeah.
Like, she's from Knoxville, so she might actually get some federal stuff to help Knoxville. I mean, it's the same premise as when Randy Boyd was running for governor. He did well in the primaries in Knox County. He just didn't do well in the rest of the state because for Knox County Knoxvillians, you got a governor that's from your city. Might be a little helpful.
Yeah. I was trying to think if it would be helpful at all for the party if for the next election cycle, they can at least say, we were able to chip away, the the previous.
They say it is.
2 cycles ago, when Marsha was running, she got this percentage of the vote, but when we had a slightly stronger Democratic candidate, she got, this percentage.
I mean, it's one of those.
So I don't know if it's trying to chip away just so they can say, like, hey, we're making progress in the state.
I don't know. Like, that's one of the, like Matt would tell us that means something, because it makes it more, and I could get it in some senses, like, it makes it more likely that people whom, like, I think that's the Brian Goldberg thing. Like, he has been a fairly, he's been politically active, but not politically active. I don't know how to word it. Like, I can't remember. Like, he's had leadership roles in things and whatnots and clubs and stuff like that around town. And like, so the politics to seek out those kind of appointed positions and elected positions for, like boards and whatever that he has done, like, it enters the political circle. Like, he's been within the political circle. Apparently he's been a known character to the people in the political, like, super tight in the political left of Knoxville for a while, where previous District 18 Democrats were not particularly strong candidates. I think Gregory Kaplan was a nice enough guy. He was just not a strong candidate. I think Virginia Couch prior to that was a nice enough person, but not a particularly strong candidate, where I think Brian kind of checks both those boxes. And I think a guy like that may not have been interested in running for 18 2, 4, 6 years ago, maybe because of where he was in his personal life, but also because I don't want to go out there and get all this public scrutiny bullshit and stuff like that when I don't have a chance. Like, if I really don't have a shot at it, I'm not going to run. So people that are a little bit more dogmatic about their politics are likely to be the ones running when I'm not running. Like Amanda Collins, for example, in District 14 against Zachary. No. What is it? Not Zachary. I always get these two mixed up. Lafferty. Zachary. No, it is Zachary. I always get Zachary and Lafferty mixed up. So, yeah, she's running 14 against Zachary. She has a 0 shot in hell. District 14, I think last election cycle, he had like 62, 64% of the vote. Before that, he had like 63, 64% of the vote. Like, he has one of the easiest seats to keep. Nobody's trying to primary him, and there's no chance of Republicans not winning that seat. And so, like, Amanda's running against him, and I like Amanda. I think she's a great person. And there's no chance that she's going to win that seat. And so her campaign is more of a try to make a point, try to take a chunk out of it, try to make it that maybe 2, 3, 4 cycles down the road, it could be argued to be a competitive district. But to me, like, the reality is it's hard to say if that's because of previous action. Like, so like District 18 right now, like, I think at least from the yard sign voting that I see, Goldberg's running away with District 18. I see so many more Goldberg signs than Elaine Davis's.
Really? I see a good bit of Davis signs out and about.
I do too, but if I were counting what I've seen in my different runs around the town and the different places that I go that are in District 18, it seems like Goldberg has a significant, maybe a 1.5 to 1, not a huge, like, not a blowout number of more signs, but definitely more signs than Democrats have had in the past, especially right here in County District 4, which has been a flip county and school board and now county commission. Now, the question, though, is that because the candidates are better? Is that because the demographics have shifted? And I'm going to say probably the latter more than the prior. I think the demographics have shifted, like it or not, near West Knoxville, this Rocky Hill neighborhood and stuff that we are in, or that I'm in and your parents are in, our, like, stuff like that. This little chunk of Knoxville I think is turning blue because of demographics, not because of politics or policy. I think it's getting more urbanized because we have more people in the area. And just like any urban centers tend to lean left, that's what's happening here. I don't think
we've had a whole lot of growth to say there's been a...
No?
I guess I don't really know the boundaries of 18. I'm trying to think. There's been a handful of, like, subdivisions that pop up, but that's bringing in a lot more wealth, which tends to be more Republican leaning.
Yeah, but But the question for a lot of these new pop-ups is, where are these people coming from? Where are the people that are buying these new homes? And then it goes into that whole, like,
it's a mixture, but
right. I would argue that of the immigrant population, meaning people who moved from other places to here, not from other countries or whatever, but of the immigration trend, I think it's a lot of people. I think there are a lot of left leaning people moving to Knoxville and Knox County, and I think this part of Knoxville and Knox County is on the higher end of the percentage that's getting those people. That's my take on it. I don't know. But your original question being, yes, like a Politico like Matt Shears is going to say yes. Because last time we ran that race, that guy won 80-20. This time we ran that race, he only won 70-30. Like Matt was saying after the last, the 22 election cycle, when Mayor Jacobs won again, but he only won by 7 points instead of 14 or 12 or something like that. That Debbie Helsley did a really great job. She had a really good run against him and only lost by 7 instead of 10 or whatever it was before. Right. And so there was that argument about, well, why did his percentage of the total go down? Is it because X, Y, or Z? My take personally from watching what's happening, my take is that it's the population shift that we are undergoing right now is most of what this changes. I think naturally as a city grows anyway, it leans more left. Like Nashville, Memphis are Democratic strongholds.
Right. I don't see the influx of people to Knoxville being, a hard majority of one party versus the other.
I don't know that they. I don't know that they
look
know
at
that
economics.
Either.
Most places around us are more expensive to live. So it's a cost of living thing. Most places in the U.S. are more expensive than here.
Okay, but the most expensive places tend to be the highly urbanized areas, which are left leaning.
No, not necessarily. Yeah, cities are on average more expensive to live in.
Right. And so, that's...
But, any suburbs of cities are expensive to live in. Most places are expensive to live in nowadays. But everyone likes to point at California. I don't think we've had this whole influx of people from California coming all the way across the U.S.
I think we've had some, but I think most of those went to Texas.
Some.
I think a lot of those went to Texas for sure. There was a map of it. They do a set. There was a mid-census map or something like that they did, and it's it was they estimate pretty accurately between from which states people are coming from and from which states people are going to, which I thought the most fascinating one was Florida, because we had it wasn't mid-census. I don't know who was doing it. I'm not sure.
The census was at least 4 or 5 years ago now.
Well, it'd be 4, about almost 5.
Was it in 2020 they did it? Yeah, I think it was in 2020.
It's always the 0 years, but the whatever this data group that did this thing is Tennessee to Florida was 2,742 people. Florida to Tennessee was 2,765 people or something like that. It was almost a zero.
Right.
As many people went to Florida as came from Florida in the time period that they were looking at. But it was we were plus something from Illinois and Massachusetts and New Jersey's. I can't remember what it was, but it was a cool, it was a neat little map. And it showed where people were coming from. In California, we are plus X from California, but it's
right. But they have much larger population, so it's going to be disproportionate as far as people coming from California here versus here going to California.
Right, but it's going to have a disproportionate effect on us as well.
I guess I don't know. Because I just don't see the draw, especially from the Democratic standpoint of coming to Knoxville. We're kind of a purplish area, but the state in general is still supermajority.
The draw is
so I don't really see the big draw for Democrats to come here all of a sudden.
The draw is to move to a cheaper cost of living place, but hold on to some of the things you like to living in a city. Like if you're coming from a San Francisco or an LA or something like that, the draw is it's 10% cost of living. And I still live in a place where it has most of the things I want to have happen are happening close to me. To me, that's the number one sales pitch of Knoxville. Knoxville used to be at least.
I just don't say. We've always been a college town, so we've always got that influx of new professors coming in and out, grad students coming in and out. But
I don't know what you're I don't understand what you're pushing back on me about here. These are.
I'll just push back on the general premise of these Californians are coming into Knoxville and, we're just this whole big huge shift. I don't think we've had huge shifts in politics. Like you said,
we obviously have. We have districts that are flipping for the first time in a decade plus. Now,
by how much? We were talking about 18 now may flip, but previous election was still a Republican. Do you remember what the margin was last time?
We could look it up, but it was Elaine Davis wasn't as good as I think. I think it was a 54-40 something or something like that.
Right.
Okay. I don't understand. Again, I'm there is a shift happening now. Is it because of the influx of people? I don't know. That's my argument. My take.
I don't see huge shifts. I mean, there's always going to be gradual shifts, but I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, then what do you see as the cause of the gradual shift? I mean, because one of the an absolute 100% possible would be.
I mean, I think a lot of politics is just we go back and forth. I mean, we do have stronghold districts that people just typically just keep voting. It's the same people that go out and vote.
So right, I can see the younger generation. Dies
so I could see some of Matt's kind of thought, and that it's worth it, I guess, for the party's sake to keep putting up a candidate. That way, you don't have people that just give up, and people just like, well, that district always leans this way, so the other side's never going to get somebody in there. So that other side just starts to give up. They're like, there's not a point. But if you start giving them a little bit of hope, it's like, hey, well, we got to 25%. Hey, we're up to 30%. Yeah. You may start getting that a little bit of a groundswell.
But I mean, that's got to be. I mean, yes, it can be. I mean, that's. I don't know. Like, I mean, yes, I agree. That's the argument on why you shouldn't vote third party in the first place, is because you're throwing it away because they don't have a possible chance to win. But it's like I'm not voting for the winner. I'm not placing a bet.
Right.
This isn't supposed to be you're placing a bet on who you think's going to win, because if everybody places the same bet, everybody wins. But doesn't mean everybody wins the politics side of it.
Right. I wasn't even getting into the whole third party.
I know.
That's still between picking between two sides at the same coin.
But for that mentality, it's that same mentality that makes that the third party argument like untrue to me. It's like, well, if you keep winning because nobody else is running, that's because at least bare minimum, your population doesn't hate your policy, doesn't hate what you're doing. I would hope that would be my thought process. Like Zachary, like if the constituents of District 14 hate Zachary, but they keep voting for him, I don't know what to say about that. That's just stupid. Like, because I would argue that a lot of them, if they actually had any education in what's actually happening, probably wouldn't like a lot of his policy stuff. He was the one that put forward the like out of state abortion crap that you're going to get arrested to help your kid's friend or friend's kid or whatever.
Was he a sponsor on it or something?
Yeah, I think he put it up. Like he put up a lot of the anti-woke whatever stuff that he likes to do. Like he's that guy.
Well, I think most people that go out and vote aren't really paying much attention anyway. They just kind of think like, am I getting affected that much? Like, do I want somebody new? Or like, things were okay. Like,
right. So
okay, we'll vote that last person in.
Right. For him in a district like that, as long as he doesn't do something so egregious that it upsets his base that doesn't pay attention,
right,
he can keep that seat. And again, I mean, the bottom line here is it boils down to educate yourself on who you're voting for, because you're going to continue to elect a guy that sucks because you're too lazy to take half a second to see how bad he sucks. Like that's the the long and short of it, because it's like Jesse was talking about it today. Zachary's not as bad as Davis is. Apparently, Zachary will answer emails and phone calls and stuff like that from time to time from the press, but he doesn't go to any forums. He doesn't go to debates. He doesn't take part in any of that. Like he doesn't run. Like apparently he's got like $20,000 in his campaign account. Mm-hmm. All of it's from special interest and PACs and stuff like that, because he doesn't go fundraise. Like he doesn't go out to and hold a fundraiser to raise money so that he can run, because he doesn't need to. He doesn't think he needs to, and obviously he's right.
Well, you think he would still try to like raise money for the party themselves, because the big thing nowadays, and especially any kind of like contested district, are the opposing parties funding the other parties like extreme candidates or whatever.
Right, and
to where
but still,
to where you even collect money to then help out, other people in his neighboring districts to make sure his neighboring district stays within that party.
If he's making that kind of money, if he's raising that kind of money without actually having to fundraise, it's just donations.
It's $20,000 a lot.
I mean, it's pretty. It's for a gimme race. That's a lot of money.
I mean, I guess you're not putting out yard signs or anything, but
yeah,
I would say even run like any kind of like small.
But I mean, okay, like I don't know what the maximum that his campaign is allowed to donate to other campaigns, but it's not huge. How many other campaigns would he possibly want to donate to? Like, he might have donated to Elaine Davis's campaign because that is a neighboring campaign and he wants Elaine to keep the seat. But he's got a maximum.
It would behoove him.
Yeah. What did I say?
That's what you said before.
That's what I say all the time. I know it's behoove. I don't know what that word means, so whatever. So I don't know. Like
it would be in your best interest to do that.
Right. It would be in his best interest to donate to Elaine Davis's campaign.
Telling you what behoove means.
Yes.
Sorry, you just said I don't even know what that means.
I don't know, but I think it in my head it's two words: behoove, behoove.
Gotcha.
It's like, what does hoove mean? That doesn't make any sense. That's what I see in my head.
Right, some old English word.
Yeah.
Or German. Or maybe French.
Right. And this is and I'm in the middle of a tirade about how stupid voters are, and I don't know I'm sitting here explaining how dumb I am about the word behoove.
Right. I know how to say the word, but I have no idea how to use it.
But again, I think you asked a valid question, and I think it's an interesting question, and I think it's something that it is an unanswerable question, factually speaking. I think it is an opinion answer, no matter who answers the question. I think
as far as there's a benefit to party to keep running again.
Right. I think a party op like Matt Shears or Stuart Hull, the new chair of the local party. Yes, in their perspective, it is a value because other people who could potentially be a candidate in the future see that people are running, see a little bit of the numbers shift, see that there is positive progress in their direction. Now, does that equate to...
That would still require people to pay attention to the numbers. And I mean, even as much as we keep up with, I forget the numbers.
Right. Well, what they do, I mean, but for the party's sake, they'll tell you the numbers when they need to tell you the numbers.
Right.
They say, look... Yeah, last time we did this, it was the 2 races ago, they beat us by 20 points. This time, they beat us by 10. If we do that, if we could do the same amount of change as we did in between the last 2 cycles and this cycle, it'll be a +1 or 2, and we might even be able to win this thing. Whether that's really true or not is irrelevant. I think, and again, I think there is a functional demographic shift happening, and then I think a third option too is I think there are some particular issues. I think post-Roe is a huge one. I think that's part of what's going on in District 18 specifically. I think post-Roe, we have a lot of people who wouldn't have voted for a Democrat otherwise, but cannot stand this zero exception abortion ban we have in this state. And as much as they hate everything about Democrats, this is a line that they're like, okay, you know what? I can't vote for you again, Elaine, because you won't back off on this one, and you keep leaning harder into the wrong answer. I think there's a lot of people who like it wasn't an issue when we still had Roe Wade active. Like I think that it was just kind of like, I would love it for it to be like properly legalized and everything to be clean cut and we have a clear understanding of it. I'd love to get off of this shifting road of legalities and all these attempts by the state to make it harder and whatever. But as long as we have Roe Wade and we're still good, I don't care. It's not that important to me. But I think post Roe Wade, I think there's a lot of people who are like, whoa, too far.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. And I think we'll see. I think that is a huge positive for Goldberg's campaign. I think that is going to be one. If you could get the truth in a survey out of the people who vote for him, I think that would be a high ranking one for him.
Yeah, it's the number one thing on his little card.
What is it?
Restore and protect reproductive rights.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I think, like if you're a Democrat, you know that. Like we've seen evidence of it in multiple states. Multiple states that have had referendums and ballot items changing their own constitutions to do whatever. The turnout has been strongly in favor of some abortion options. So, yeah, that's it. So again, I think there's a demographic shift because of the population change that we are seeing. I think there is and I think that Roe Wade one's a big, huge one. And I do think there is some, like, okay, it's not unacceptable in my district to vote for a Democrat anymore. And then that being that data-driven 1% more, which is dumb though. It's so stupid because then you're not supposed to be electing by like that bothers me personally. Because if we want to vote for winners, then that's called betting, and we can go gamble on it, and we can do that on the side. We want to vote for who the best person we think for the job is. It shouldn't matter. Which brings me around to I had an argument. Go ahead.
But I mean, a lot of that just goes back to the parties themselves because they're going to put up the most electable candidate.
Yeah, but what does that mean, electable?
I mean, they have their own metrics as far as who they think people will turn out and go see and will want to sit down and have a beer with and who will take care of all their woes, etc.
Which, like you said, number one on Mr. Goldberg's card there that's happened to be sitting next to you is exactly the right one.
Right. I didn't think they would be focusing on it, but
I think I think it is a winning strategy. I think that's one of the things that the Harris campaigns.
I mean, there's some that are running on it. Yeah, I mean, at the national level. But I appreciate candidates that aren't running on it. Because a lot of it is kind of, I would say, like forced by the media, but I mean, it's getting amplified more of politicians talking about it and the media talking about it because the politicians are talking about it. So I think we talked about it before that it's shouldn't really be a core issue, but it's been kind of pushed to the forefront of issues. I'm not saying it's not an issue, but
I mean the problem is that it's a small percentage of the population who it's a direct issue to. That was poorly worded. I apologize. I take that back. It's a problem. It ought not be. It ought not be a single issue. It ought not be, I vote for you, depending, like, either I vote for you or not, depending on how you answer this one question.
Right.
But I think it is and has been for a lot of people on both sides.
Yeah.
For a long time. Like, I will not ever vote for somebody who their position on abortion is X. And it doesn't matter what else. They could have everything else. Everything else could be perfectly in line with everything that I believe that we should or shouldn't be doing and the government can and can't do and blah, 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 blah. But if they don't agree with this part on abortion, I can't. And many people have many different versions of that one, but that has been for years a number one red line for a lot of people. And I think that's unfortunate because I think, we're going to get... We could be getting bad candidates, or we could be losing possibly good candidates for positions because of that one. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Like, if that's all their job was to vote on that one issue, okay, but it's not. There's so many other things going on,
right.
And we are disqualifying good quality candidates because of one issue.
Right. Like, what other issue could they talk about that we could have disqualified them for? Had they not said that.
Right.
They're like, man, if we would have given them one more line on that flyer they sent out, we would have seen that they agree with blah, blah, blah. Would have been like, hell no, you like that? No.
Like I know I'm a broken record on this. I ask the question all the time. It's like, how do like, I've asked the Compass guys 1,000 times, and maybe one day they'll do it. When they do a power poll, I would love, I don't know how to write it exactly, but I would love a poll, like a whole set of questions in a survey that is, how do you, like, what is your top issue? That's not an uncommon question, but it's like, how do you rank your top issues? How do you offset, like, how many issues offset, how many issues do you agreed with to offset one issue you disagree with? How do you rank, how do people, like, I really want to understand how people think on that. Not because I want to manipulate or whatever, I'm just really curious.
Right.
Because, like, mine has been moving around and congealing for years, and I can go back. We can go back to episodes on here where I take one stance, and I've changed it 15 times since on which one's my top priority. Because, again, like, I'm weird. I know I'm weird, but, like, to me, national politics, specifically the President of the United States, the only question I have is foreign policy.
It used to be opposite.
Yeah.
You're like, we focus on local.
I think if we want to argue about what I think the job is supposed to be and what it is and isn't, that's a separate thing. But if we're going to accept that this is the job, that the way that it goes, I would like you to do better. And again, it's not incongruent on some level. It's like, I would like you to not be in. I would like you to minimize your energy and effort in, I don't know, interjecting us into foreign affairs, and maybe spend more time and energy focusing on domestic affairs.
Right.
That's my foreign policy question. Do you want to send millions and billions of dollars all around the world to do X, Y, or Z, or do you want to make sure that we are a more stable and unified nation that has more happy and less disgruntled people in it, or do you want to send money over there? That's a question. That's my general federal question now. But again, but for anybody,
chew bubble gum and walk at the same time, because both of those aren't mutually exclusive.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely a zero sum game. There are only so many dollars that they can spend.
Yes and no.
Well, I mean, yes, they can create them and stuff like that. I agree, and they can borrow it and all this other kind of stuff. But it may be not be a true zero sum, and that only one or the other can happen. But there is a level of there's a line somewhere where it's like, okay, we can't, because again, if the creation of money for the federal government didn't matter, why didn't we all just keep getting our stimulus checks, our COVID checks? Why did they stop giving us our $650 or $700 a month or whatever it was?
They did that like twice.
I'm saying, but why would they stop? Or why would they only give us $1,000? Well, how much was it? I don't remember. $650? I think I got like $3,000 because it was the whole household.
I think it was like 2 months of like 600 like bonus checks or whatever.
I think that's right. And so I got 4 of those because I got me and the missus.
Individual. Yeah.
Right. I got me and the missus, and then we got something for kids too. And so I ended up getting like $3,000 or $4,000, maybe $5,000 on the thing. But why did they stop? If we could just make the money exist, why would you stop giving it away? Or why would you only give $1,200 away and not give?
I don't know why you wanted to all just jump into like, why would you just start printing money? That was not what I was advocating for, so I don't know why you wanted to take that stance on it.
Because you said we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and it's right. Like, well, no, we can't, because there's obviously a finite amount of money.
But it's not. That's why we have budgets. There's not a finite amount of money.
I mean, we break the budget
at any given time, but we also like burn money and take in like old currency and literally like destroy it. I think we're still creating more than we take back in, and find like old currency and destroy it and whatnot. But
I agree.
Now, we've talked about this before, that there's benefit to there being stability outside of the U.S. that benefits our stability here.
Yes.
That's why I was just saying that they're not mutually exclusive. You mean they're like, yes, they are.
Okay, well,
that was the take I was taking on. You're talking about being focusing domestically.
Yeah. Okay, I apologize, but I mean, I still don't. There is some finite to it, but I guess it's in the gray. It's in the degrees of.
We're arguing semantics,
right? Well, I mean, it's in the degrees of how much. Like, I mean, to me, the question on that then is like, so on our what the argument to me, I guess, would then turn into, then what's our return on investment? If I will stipulate that, yes, you're right, it is in our best interest as citizens of the United States that our government interacts with the world at large to help keep things stable and stuff like that, so that the flow of goods and services and our ability to travel and all that kind of stuff. Then there's a very simple math equation. It's like, so are we as citizenry getting more than what we're spending for that stability? Because if we're not, then the stability isn't worth it.
You could run down the rabbit hole trying to find all the metrics on that. Because, I mean, I would say we have, just private companies in the U.S. that, because we have good relations in other countries,
it's massive.
Our private countries are able to benefit
1,000,000%, 100.
Right.
It'd be a huge.
That's what I'm saying. That's where it would be kind of hard to quantify.
Oh, I don't think
because how much of that company's money, then got distributed out to, the employees paying their taxes, to where it's really hard to like kind of run down the benefit of.
I mean, economists could do the math on it; they could figure it out. It's just it's a big equation. Don't get me wrong. But
there's also what's like unprovable negatives in there, basically, to where, if we didn't have that, it's kind of hard to quantify the amount of potential money lost, basically. You could do a rough guesstimate, but...
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, that I feel like you accidentally backed my point on that, with that statement. Because you can't prove the
I'm saying it's possible. I'm saying I don't know how easily it would be done. It's possible, yes.
Like, it's like,
but you're looking at a lot of different metrics.
Like, one of the things that I've got that I'm trying to get better at in discussing stuff like that is that there's my hardcore philosophical version of things, and there's the more realist, and that's what I think we were touching on with how I look at the president now. My more realist is the president is going to set our foreign affairs agenda and how we deal with other nations and how we spend and how we start wars and finish wars and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I care a whole lot about that. That's my top issue for the President of the United States, because the realism of the job, of what the job is now. I don't agree that's how the job is supposed to be. And so, like, I struggle to keep myself from falling into my philosophical version when we start talking about this, because my philosophical version is way different than the realist version of it. But it doesn't matter. I can't vote. Like, the only person on the ballot that I think I can vote for by my foreign affairs agenda is going to be Jill Stein, and this is where I have to go start ranking all the other.
RFK's on our state ballot.
Yeah, but he's a Zionist.
Okay.
I mean, like
I don't heard that. I don't really follow him too much. But
I
was just surprised he was still on the ballot.
Well,
I didn't know if we were one of the states he tried to get himself off of.
I don't think so, because Trump's winning the state walking away anyway. It doesn't really matter. I wouldn't think he would have put the effort in.
Well, there's a number of states that he was basically trying to take himself off of. Maybe it was just swing states, but he was.
Yeah, it was the states that he thought he could actually have a negative effect on Trump at, and Tennessee ain't one of them.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was a disappointment about him when I first was getting excited about him, because he was real. He was real against how much money we were spending on Ukraine, and it's like, okay, we got an anti-war president. All right, here we go. And then a year and 4 days ago, that shit happened, and he was pretty quick to, I mean, it's a terrorist attack. That's an easy one to condemn a terrorist attack or whatever. But he was pretty quick to start supporting Israel's invasion or police action or whatever we're calling their entry into Gaza and all that stuff. And like he's a very pro-Israel. I think I would not be out of line to call him a Zionist. Which
I just hadn't heard that line.
Apparently, there's Columbia University in their new student handbook. You are not permitted to use the term Zionist in a derogatory way.
Weird.
Yeah.
I saw something else with colleges recently, but I can't remember now.
There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in colleges. I wish I was more politically active when I was in college. I might have enjoyed it. But I don't even remember seeing a lot of stuff on campus. We had like corner preachers every once in a while, but I don't remember seeing a lot of like. I mean, hell, I was at UT during 9/11.
Yeah,
but I don't remember seeing a bunch of like, pro or anti Iraq invasion stuff while I was still there, and like.
I think they had a small like normal club.
Yeah, I remember we had that cool rock and roll band I played with played Normal 420 Fest.
Yeah.
And we made really bad ATF T-shirts.
I think I remember hearing every once in a while they'd have somebody on the bridge that was talking about a topic or whatever, handing out flyers on a certain topic.
Yeah, I don't know. But so yeah, anyway, like to roll that to a close, I think you're right. I think that there is value in running candidates constantly. I think there's value in just in seeing if people are willing to still come out and vote for a loser, because that shows that shows a level of dissatisfaction with the status quo.
All right, and some of it could be a level of putting out a candidate and just trying to see like what is electable. Like, all right, we tried this candidate last time. Like,
how would you like to be that guy? Hey, Sam.
Well, I mean, if it's in a district they've been constantly struggling in, I'm not saying just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
No, Sam, you've been.
I'm saying as far as like going with a different candidate, like, hey, we had a candidate that was was for this against that, for that against that, or whatever, and let's see if we can't find a candidate that's slightly different.
I think they found a winner. Mr. Goldberg is a handsome fella. He's a UT alum. He's an Olympic swimmer.
Right.
He's got a lot of pros going for him. He's got a beautiful family.
That's something that kind of threw me off on he's got a picture of, like a start line of a pool, but the little caption of it is hard worker. I was like,
I mean, you got to be.
I mean, I guess you got to read into that. I mean, you got to do a lot of training to be a swimmer.
I mean, that's where I got all defensive.
Like standing there in a hard hat and be like hard worker.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I got all defensive last week when we were talking about, or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Mayor Jacobs' Blackbird commercial.
Right.
It's like like it's a show. It's a fake activity. But you got to be pretty serious about it. Like, I've known some kids that have been trying to get into wrestling that way, and like, it's hard on your body. You got to do a lot of work to stay physically functional for that kind of stuff. There's a dedication to it and a showmanship.
Right.
But anyway, I don't want to go into the Mary Kane stuff. Marsha's running attack ads on Gloria. I've gotten some texts from the Gloria side, or from the Marsha side on Gloria. Gloria's running on the fact that she was a teacher for 20 years.
Yeah, that was one of the few things I remember taking away from the one commercial I saw, how Marsha took some money from PACs or something.
Yeah, I mean, of course she does. Why wouldn't she?
Right. I think I was trying to say that she was in the pockets of big money.
And again, I kind of rolling off to your prior point of like a Senate seat for a Democrat in Tennessee is a huge ask. Like, that's pretty out of the ball. Like, that's That's swinging for the fences to try to really run a Democrat. And the fact that Marcia and her campaign sees enough of a threat in it that they're bothering pushing back. Same thing with the Elaine Davis campaign on Goldberg, that they're out there running attack ads against them. It's all the Republican. It's at least the local one, the Goldberg one. That's all from the state Republican caucus pack. It's not actually Marcia's or Elaine Davis's campaign running those ads. But the party at least sees enough threat that they're fighting back against it. Marsha Blackburn sees enough threat in Gloria that she's at least pushing back.
It could just be spending some of their war chest.
Yeah, but like you
she's
said,
like, I finally get to spend some of my money on my campaign.
If you're going to spend it, though, like
my campaign manager finally has something to do.
There's other places you could spend it that have that behoove you
right
to get after. If it's really just throwing money to throw money, which is possible. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like
I think it's unlikely, but
I think if you're going to spend the kind of money to run like primetime news. During primetime news ads, those are expensive ads,
right? Oh, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know how much they kind of hope for down balloting. To essentially, having more people show up to vote for her, right?
In this case, it'd be up balloting. Like that's, well, I mean, it's kind of what it's part of what the Mayor Jacobs one is it's an investment in a future down ballot for when he's on it for governor. I mean, I think there's complicated motivations in it for sure. But at the end of the day, I think there's more to it than I don't, because again, if it's, Marcia's doing it to help Elaine Davis. Okay, maybe I could see how that tracks. I could see Marcia doing it to help down ballot, maybe some other district races around the state that are in kind of swingable districts and stuff like that. Okay, I could see that. It's certainly nothing to help up ballot. Trump's winning the state. There's no question there.
Right.
So. It's an interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Down ballot.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting take. I was thinking up ballot for a second, but then I realized we're in Tennessee and forgot where it was at. So speaking of local party shenanigans, Mr. Hornbeck on BrianHornbeck.com, he put a post on his Facebook page this week, October 9th. If you're curious to go find it, Knox Dems keeps repeating the same old lies. This one somehow old Pat Ridley flipped the 3rd District for Knox County School Board blue. In fact, in 2020, he covered the 3rd District Democrat meeting with Daniel Watson as the guest. Guess who the 2020 3rd District male rep for Knox Dems was? The fake moderate that is Elaine Davis. So what he's or is Elaine Davis's opponent. That's his poke at Brian Goldberg. And so the funny thing is, so I commented on it, and we got this back and forth where my comment was trying to agree with him because he's correct. Watson is definitely a left-leaning fella, but more importantly, technically, when Watson won the school board, it was a nonpartisan race. You can't flip a district that isn't a partisan district because a Democrat didn't win the seat or a Republican didn't win the seat the last time there was an election there. The partisanship has been inserted into school board races.
Right, but people in the know the party leanings.
Right. Patricia, it ran as a Democrat and won the seat as a Democrat. Yes. But it's not, she didn't take the seat from a Republican. She took the seat from nobody. And so Knox Dems saying, that Patricia flipped the seat blue was a false statement. Or was maybe not a false statement, but it was a misleading statement. And so I tried to agree with him. I was like, yeah, how do you flip a district? How do you flip a district that wasn't, that didn't have a side the first time? And then he leans into me about, and about Daniel Watson was a liberal. It's like, yeah, I agree with you. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he was a liberal running in a nonpartisan race. So by definition, he's just Daniel Watson. He's not Daniel Watson R or Daniel Watson D. Right. And so it's I'm sorry that I didn't agree with you in the terms that you wanted me to agree with you with, but yes, I think that Knox Dems are lying with the way they're presenting this as them flipping said seat. And then he called me a liberal. And then I got offended.
Jesus.
But what did it say? Yeah, he says, are you a member of the liberal compass crowd now? And I said, guilt by association, I suppose. And yes, this is Lord Seth A. Barber. Facebook won't let me put my lordship on. And so, anyway, it's just a funny little back and forth with it, because he is a super Republican guy. He is the representative for his district to the state Republican Party. Like, he was on it. He got elected to, I think they go by Senate seats. So he's the seat 6 male representative for Knox County in the state Republican Party.
Okay.
And so so it goes on, and this is what I kind of wanted to get to, is that, I said, I can't remember what he said, something about the phrase, socialist, communist, liberals. And I was like, I need you to tell me what that means. Because I would say, what did I say? Now, let's chat definitions for a second. Would consolidation of power and centralized government control be categorized as communist socialist? Would we know what's best for you and your family better than you know what's best for you and your family be communist socialist ideals? Is increased regulation a liberal or conservative ideal? Which he doesn't answer any of my questions. He just says, Gloria Johnson and Sam McKenzie are socialists. And it's like, I don't care about either of them. They're not in my district. Can you give me some policy or answer any of my prior questions? Or maybe my most common stupid question no one likes to answer: what is a Democrat? What is a Republican? And he sent me this sticker. You won't like it, but until I can get my hands on what first made him a GOPer in 1982, I'm currently working on blog content. Basically, he's like, I'm done talking to you. I'm going to go work on my blog. And so I don't know, like this, this is his definition. He sent me this sticker. It's a blue side and a red side. You have a donkey and an elephant. The blue side says reading, new, having health, environment, mouth, different nature, pet, caring, simple partner, gardening, daughter, stable, tough, outside dog, loved activity. So it's a word cloud. So when people are asked what a Democrat is, the most common answer is new,
and daughter and dog and reading. Followed closely by reading.
All right. So the word cloud for Republicans that he sent me was God, freedom, country, hard, Jesus, government, religion,
best, American,
fortunate, wonderful, family, election, reason, point, alive,
watching,
Lord, worship, mind, like this. So
mind is really small.
Yeah. So so yeah, you're right, Brian. I will not like that. That doesn't answer my question at all.
I'm just more confused now.
Yeah. I mean, because like reading.
Please tell me you made that up and you didn't just find that somewhere.
Reading doesn't sound like a bad thing. I guess I like Democrats. They like reading. Reading's cool. New might be good.
Am I supposed to be against daughters?
I like my dog.
Right.
I like my dog a lot.
I like new things.
Now the question is I mean, and I guess, it is one answer. The number one thing that people think of when they think Republican is God. And I don't think that has any place in politics. So that's not a win for me. That doesn't help me define anything.
Yeah. A lot of politicians are running on it now.
I know. Just like a lot of politicians are running against abortion or for abortion or whatever the fuck it is. I mean, I think that I understand the tendency to want to do so. Like, it makes sense. Like, I mean, I don't know what our numbers are down. I think agnostic is the number one religious choice on a survey nowadays.
It's not agnostic, but essentially just like non-denominational, like spiritual kind of. So I think there's like a level of spirituality, but
there's something going on. I just don't know what. Right. Yeah.
So I guess it leads into that kind of agnostic thought.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But yeah, that seems like a doesn't help. They didn't help me answer my questions because.
Right. Well, I'm surprised you took the conversation on that long.
He did, or I did?
Well, I guess both of you.
I think we're both the same. I think.
Well, I'm assuming he talks to more people on there on his post or whatever. He's constantly arguing with people, going back and forth with people on his particular post, especially if it's politically related.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't seen. I just like. He's one that like he's in my feed and he does a lot, and I appreciate that he exists and does what he does. And just sometimes he'll comment or post something, and I can't help but go, "What are we talking? What? I don't get it." I have to interject. I don't know why. There we go. Any update? 12 hours ago. Nope. That's pretty bad. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. Only 35 people, going back to our little weird dynamite issue.
Right.
They opened up the Jacobs building for a temporary shelter for people. 35 people stayed last night. There's a lot more people that live around there.
I'd say a good number of people just sheltered in place.
Or you find a friend's house and you go somewhere else. I wouldn't want to go to the Jacobs building probably either.
I thought there was another hotel they were putting people up in as well.
I hadn't heard that part. But not unlikely that people with the means are going to do what they can. Again, I'm still in love with our post Celine response. It's just madness. I love people. People are awesome. Lots of people doing lots of stuff, doing everything they can figure out how to do to help.
Yeah, I never heard much follow up. I thought that parts of East Knoxville had some bad flooding as well. I mean, obviously not as bad as other counties, but I thought there were parts of East Knoxville, because usually we get heavy rains, right there around Chilhowie, always floods a bunch. Whatever road that is that goes by, the old dirt, drag strip or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they got it over there bad or not. I know, this is an interesting one. I don't know if you heard about this. Governor Lee has opened up a loan program for counties and other municipalities who need just the amount of money it's going to take to do the cleanup on this.
Don't believe I heard anything about that.
So I can't remember. Douglas, I think it's up at Douglas. They're saying $650,000 is going to cost them to get all the debris out of the lake, so that the locks and the dams can be working properly and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then rebuilding roads and bridges and all that stuff. And so essentially it's actually kind of cool. Like love or hate Governor Lee, it's really irrelevant. But it's out of the TennCare fund, which makes it a little wonky. But essentially it's a specific list of counties and municipalities in those counties that they can borrow money out of this fund at 0% interest and get started on rebuilding a bridge or clearing a roadway, getting the power lines put back up, and a lot of the problems it's not that there isn't access to water, it's just the system is so backed up and dirty and stuff like that they're having to go and clear pipes and stuff like that, all this debris, so that they can get clean water again, because the water treatment facilities can't clean this dirty water to make it potable. And so it's a way for these municipalities to get the funds to start working on these projects, because the FEMA money will come, but it will be months down the road. And so their concern is, so the idea is that the state's going to give them the money at 0% interest, and then when they go through all the paperwork and stuff they have to go through for FEMA to get the funding to do the job, they've already got it started or maybe even done. And then when they get the funding from FEMA, they give it back to the state.
Right.
And so it's really just a way to jumpstart the FEMA process for these municipalities. So Newport can, go rebuild that bridge over the Little Pigeon or whatever it is that got swept away. But they can start on that now. They don't have to wait for the FEMA money to come in 3, 6, 9 months, however long it takes for that process.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. I kind of appreciate it. I do not quite understand why they don't just give the money out of the rainy day fund instead of coming out of the TennCare fund, and maybe do it with a clause of this is a friend letting you borrow some money kind of deal. I'm not going to hate you if you don't pay it back, but when FEMA pays you it back, you can pay me back kind of deal, instead of doing it as a weird loan thing. But I understand the premise of it for the TennCare part.
I don't know if the TennCare fund is more easily accessible or
because
red tape they've got to go through to take the money out.
Because apparently one of the things that one of the little snippets in the gubernatorial order or whatever it's called that let this happen is that it's it's public health and safety to have potable water, to get the water systems up and running, and get the wastewater systems working correctly and get utilities back up and make it so that the ambulance and fire truck can go to your house and get you. And so basically they had to term it as a public health thing to get access to the TennCare, and maybe it was easier than trying to get it out of the rainy day fund. I don't know what the process is. I'd have to hit up Becky Massey on that one. How do we take money out of this thing?
Right.
Like, I feel like we've had a couple of like proper opportunities where it made total sense to actually get into it, and you've not.
Because I think we looked it up. Wasn't it the rainy day fund that we figured out they hold in like multiple accounts or whatever?
Sure. I don't remember if we saw if it was that one or one of the other ones. I know we talked about it.
It's either that or our TennCare fund.
I mean, it's probably both of them. But I mean,
right.
that was the fun part about talking to Kaz when Kaz was running for whatever seat that was, property assessor, county clerk. No, I don't know. Whatever is the register of deeds. I don't remember. I think it was county. No. Who was he running against? He was running against Briggs, so it was property assessor. He was running against Briggs for property assessor, and like that's this whole thing. It's like 90% of the actual discretion of the job of being a property assessor. It's like all the other stuff's like state mandated. Like, the county sets your tax rate. We do the math and send you the letter that says this is how much you owe in taxes.
Right.
That's state mandated stuff. The real discretion of the job is you send us your check, we deposit that into account. Well, we have multiple millions of dollars in accounts. Do we just leave it in an account that just sits there, and when the city needs it, or the county needs it to spend, we just give it to them? Or do we try to make some aggressive moves and put them into 6-month CDs, put some of it over here in this bank that's got a higher yield, put some of it here where we can get to it immediately? There's a dance to it, I guess, is the way I kind of took it. And I would think that every municipality does that as they can.
Do you think the property assessor or whoever is head of that department has discretion over
because
how that money is stored?
Essentially the property assessor is the county's tax collector.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if when the state takes sales tax and sends the local portion back, if that goes through the property assessor. But at least for county property taxes, that all goes through that goes to the property assessor's office and then is distributed to the county for expenses.
Makes sense.
And so yes. that is within their
purview.
Their purview. Yeah, there you go. Speaking of good words that I don't ever use right. Trying to think of what else I got this week. Mortgage stuff. I don't know. Anyway.
I did start trying to look into see what pros and cons were out there as far as like pilot programs.
I did get a survey on certificate of need. Mm-hmm. I got a phone survey, and
I stopped seeing the commercials.
I got to say it was a phone survey. Like, it started out kind of as a normal politics survey. Are you more likely, less likely? How do you feel about this candidate? Blah blah blah. And this is semi-racist. I don't know. I don't really care. The guy had a thick accent, and these were long survey questions with prescribed answers. So it was like a good standard survey. It's like, President Trump said he wants to do X, Y, Z. Does that make your opinion of him more favorable, somewhat more favorable, no change, less favorable, significantly less favorable, or something like that? Like that, but like everyone, and he had it was just like everyone was like 3 minutes of him trying to say the question and then telling me what the possible answers were, and it's just like, I really want to partake in this survey, buddy, but like I don't. How much more do we have to go?
All right, question number 49.
Like I did, I stopped him, and we were like,
please tell me it was only 50.
But we were like 10 questions in. I was on the phone for like 20 minutes at that point. We were like 10, maybe 15 questions in, and I was like, look, man, how many more do we got left? And he's like, we're almost done. I'll try to hurry. Okay. Somewhat unfavorable. And then he'd be like, well, the responses are less likely to vote for. And so then we'd read them to me again. And I was like, I really want to finish this survey, dude. And are you going to not count it if I just hang up now?
Right.
He's like, yeah, we got to complete it for it to go into the thing. And I was like, I'm sorry.
You can ask me for $5 when we're done either.
I was like, you're going to have to mark this one as incomplete, buddy. Like, I want to do this survey. I am that guy. I am your dream person who wants to sit through this long conversation with you to get you these survey answers. And I'm going to ask you at the end, where can I see the results of this survey? Because I'm very curious to know what the general population that is willing to sit through this shit with you is saying. But, man, I can't stay on the phone for 10 more minutes as you read and give me the very prescribed answers that I have to pick one of and then move on. And then I have to ask you to repeat. What was that part? Say that part again. It was rough.
Right.
I wish I recorded it. I was sitting here at the desk, too. I just didn't have my stuff on. I need to just get into a habit of plugging my phone in and having it rocking and rolling and ready. And if I get a call, I can just hit record.
I don't think I've gotten any of those.
I get minis.
Yeah.
I sent you some screenshots, but that was a couple weeks ago. I think we already went over that one.
Yeah.
I don't think what else I sent you.
I did see. I think it was a Tennessee-based hospital that doesn't really tie into the whole certificate of need, but apparently there was a company that came in and pretty much like bought this local kind of small rural hospital, and they just basically started like selling off everything. So they basically like bought it just to gut it.
Just for the equipment and shit?
Yeah. They just sold off the equipment, just whatever was left in there. Which, of course, pissed off people in the community. They're like, oh, we thought some company was coming in to take over this hospital and kind of fix it up a little bit. But
I mean,
they saw it as just dollar signs. But that doesn't really tie a certificate of need, because I'm assuming when they bought that hospital, they probably automatically acquired
the certificate
that.
Comes with it.
Yeah.
I would think so, too. Unless they came in wanting to make fundamental changes to the operations by adding X, Y, or Z to that hospital, then they would need a certificate.
Possibly, yeah.
I don't like. Again, I would love somebody that knows, that really, really understands it, to break it down for me and try to help me understand why it exists in the first place.
Yeah.
I just can't wrap my head around the logic of it. Like, you make some valid points on what could make sense for why it exists, but we're both just kind of grasping at straws, because mine is a guttural, philosophical. I can't imagine a world that makes any sense where the government gets to say you can or cannot do a business that you want to do.
Right.
Especially if that business is in the general benefit of your community, like a known general benefit. Like, I'm not trying to open like a voodoo healer clinic. I'm literally trying to open a hospital.
Right.
And I need permission. Like, why would anybody want to stop me? It doesn't make any sense. Well, the only thing that makes sense is a very short list of people would want to stop me, because I would be a problem for them.
You're probably a problem for everybody. Like I said, you're running at 90% capacity with 2 hospitals. You bring that third hospital in, all of a sudden you're running at 55% at each hospital. I mean, that could be right there at their sure. line of going out of business. So if we have 3 hospitals that are...
And they all go out of business because none of them can survive through it?
Basically, yeah. That none of them are able to operate with the given population around them.
I mean, I would hope that at least one of them is smart enough to curry some outside investment to get them to be the last one standing, and then once the other 2 are gone, they're the only one, and they get all the business and run it 110%.
It's possible.
The odds of 3, just because we picked that number, all 3 failing at the same time and disappearing at the same time, that we somehow end with 0 on the other side, seems infinitesimally small of happening.
I don't think it's unlikely. I mean, small rural hospitals go out of business just because they can't keep up with the cost to operate.
Right, because they're the only one there anyway.
Right.
Now,
I'm giving that example where if you had, a small rural hospital that was, they were able to function at, 65, 70% occupancy or whatever, that you throw one more into that system.
Yeah, maybe. I could see how the gut reaction would be that if that one's barely scraping by, but I would be curious to know, like, what's your, like, the person who is adding a hospital, like, what's your angle? Like, is your angle to shut down the other one and be the only one left? Then you'll be the surviving hospital, and you'll still have one hospital.
Yeah, maybe they just saw grants that they could apply for. They're like, hey, if I build a hospital, and they look around and 500 square miles or whatever, and look for the cheapest land. They're like, hey, I can get $5 million.
Right. I hope I hope in the grant gifting process there is something looking into something like that. I would hope they're not just giving grants out to somebody who's going to build a shitty hospital in the corner.
I mean, I don't know if they would look at. I don't know if they would look at outside competition or nearby competition. They're probably going to say, how much money do you need? What's your business model plan? etc.
Sure.
I don't know if they're actually, when you ask for money, they're going to say, well, hold on, are there any hospitals around you?
I mean, I don't know. I've never applied for a grant, but
right.
I
guess even like a loan or a grant. I was getting the idea of a grant as far as, there was, tax incentives or whatever for government incentives for them to build a hospital, build a clinic, etc.
I hear grant applications are really damn complicated, and like the city of Knoxville pays six figures to people.
Right.
To third party.
So we looked at that one. Was it like Aslan Foundation? They pretty much just like a grant writing.
Right. That's all they do.
Grant helper. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, this is a whole business. It's a multi-million-dollar single business.
Because it can grant you lots of money.
Right. You could get yeah. So I don't know. Like again, I understand that my reaction to it is a very guttural, philosophical response to it. I just can't imagine like a logic to it. Like it doesn't make any sense because because the inverse, because on your example, the inverse of that is like, why would why would a government do any subsidies or any incentives for them if they don't need it? Like that's the only time like to me personally.
Did we need a stadium?
Do what?
Did we need a stadium?
No.
The state was willing to kick in money for that.
Okay. Does that mean I agree with it?
No, I'm just giving you an example of need and money that the state decided was given out.
Right. And
where a need a need had nothing to do with it at all.
They made, but
where I would say the state is more likely to give out grants and whatnot if you're, going to build a hospital, clinic, etc.
I would hope not. I would not if if
I would hope that our government is incentivizing expanding healthcare instead of expanding sports networks.
Okay, agreed, but I would hope they just don't give them out. I'd hope that there's process to it, that they make a big fucking deal of it.
Well, there is. Like you said, there's a grant proposal and all that.
Okay, but okay, but you use the stadium comparison, and I don't disagree with you that I do agree that is a misuse of public funds. I don't like that.
I was just giving the example of, you were saying we don't really need it, and I was like, well, the state kicked in money for something that wasn't really a need.
But the state put the argument together that their need may not be the correct word, but there is value in it. It's an investment in this municipality. It's an investment in this community.
Possibly.
It absolutely will garner growth and long-term tax benefits.
Hopefully.
Now, whether by the time those long-term...
I don't know if it's a guarantee, but it's possible.
Those long-term tax benefits kick in. By the time those tax benefits start kicking in... I mean,
how long do they have before they got to start paying taxes? It's like 15, 20 years?
I mean, the stadium never pays taxes.
I guess how long till Boyd doesn't have to? Is that who got the pilot program?
No, I mean, Boyd gave the land, and the building that he's building on it is property of the city or of the sports authority.
Right.
And so that's a public building.
Who's not paying taxes in this pilot program that they got?
It's the surrounding development that is not paying an increase in property tax.
I thought a pilot program, they pretty much don't pay taxes for the first 5-10 years or whatever as they're trying to get their feet off the ground.
I got to get Scott. I got to get Scott to sit down.
I may be misunderstanding. I don't know.
Well, Scott and I have been talking about doing a 10-minute pilot explainer and a 10-minute TIF explainer. I'm going to sit down and really highly produce it, with a chalkboard and make it it's like a just a mini quick class, but it's because it's one of those. It's a very hot button conversation on local land use and stuff like that. We have all these different pilot programs and these different developers asking for pilots and all this stuff all the time. And I jokingly threw it at Scott when we were doing their show, and I can't remember which one he was talking about, but he every time they start, we do a segment that involves a developer that's asking for a pilot program, or it's just coverage of the city council debating over giving a pilot to X, Y, or Z. He always goes into the his short version of 12 minutes on how pilots work. And it's so I at this point have a really good understanding of how pilots work because I've heard him give the speech 15 times now. Right. And I jokingly said to him after the show, I was like, hey, we should do a really good, really scripted, really as clean and as concise pilot explainer video. And whenever we have it as a segment in the podcast, you could just say, we can do it. And you could say, if you want more details on how pilots work, there's a link in the notes. You can go see the video that we made about it. And then we could save that from him from having to do it in every episode. And so the people that know what it is don't have to hear it again. And the people that don't know what it is have easy access to get the
link in the description.
The link in the description. Exactly. And so what a pilot is, it's payment in lieu of taxes. And so, for example, if for the baseball stadium project as it sits, the stadium itself is property of the city of Knoxville. It will not pay property tax ever until it's sold to a private person many moons down the road. The surrounding development, that's going to be about $140 million development that Boyd already owns, not counting some of the other properties that Boyd doesn't own that are nearby. But Boyd's version of the pilot is on his piece of land that he's going to build these multi-use buildings that are going to be apartments and commercial ground floor restaurants, bars, whatever, and stuff like that. So what it is like he owns that piece of land right now. Don't know what he's paying in property tax. We could probably I could get with Briggs and sit down and get the numbers and we could figure out what it is. But right now, that piece of property on its last assessment was assessed for, $5 million at 2.5%. So $110,000 a year in property tax, something like that. That's too much. Maybe $10 or $12,000 a year in property tax. That's probably more accurate. So right now, that piece of land's paying that piece of land owes the city of Knoxville $10,000 a year, and Knox County $8,000 a year because Knox County's property tax is a little less. So what the pilot program that the city gave them does is it locks that for a period of time at the current percentage. So because when he builds a $140 million complex on top of this $1 million piece of land, it's now a $145 million piece of property, if not more, to be assessed for property tax.
Right.
And so,
but the businesses aren't there to properly assess at that time.
No, it doesn't in the early stages. Because his property tax has nothing to do with the tenants inside anyway. The building itself is worth, the building and the piece of land it's on is worth $145 million. That is what it's assessed for. Then he owes 2.5% or whatever it is of that to the city of Knoxville. Right. And so again, whatever the math is on that, $140 million. So that's 20 times that. So that original $10,000 a year goes up to $200,000, maybe $500,000 a year in property tax. Okay. And so what the pilot does is he keeps paying 10 for the next 15 years. He keeps paying what he was paying now before the development for the next 15 years, if that's the duration of the pilot. And the idea on that is, okay, well, if you didn't build the thing, we were only going to get 10 out of this piece of property anyway. You built the thing, we still get the 10 we're going to get anyway. But this helps you get the finance you need and the other stuff that it takes to build this huge project. And we're going to get property tax from the businesses go inside. They have a separate property tax on their tangible assets, which is their coolers and freezers and computers and whatever else they use for their business. And that's going to be a new tax income from this piece of property. And then it's going to generate a sales tax that doesn't exist otherwise. Well, it does. It's probably coming out from other places, but you know what I mean? And so the sales tax generation out of there is going to be an increase in sales tax generation for the city, for the city's local portion of it.
Let's say he wanted to own businesses that were in that. Would those businesses be a part of that pilot program?
That is a good question. I don't know that the tangible assets of an operational business are part of the pilot program. I believe, that's still stuff that the property assessor assesses and you are taxed on through the property assessor's office. It is a property tax. It's applied with the same percentage.
I guess it would be a separate entity. If you wanted to open up a restaurant or whatever.
Right. Because, for example...
They essentially gave that pilot program to Boyd Sports or whatever his development corporation is or whatever.
Right. So, for example, I have 6 property tax bills that have come in over the last couple of weeks for our 3 locations. I get a city and a county one for each. I think the minimum, no matter what, is $3, and 2 of my locations are paying the minimum. Because we don't have anything. We don't have our inventory doesn't count. It's only what they call tangible assets, which it's things that we use for the job that we don't sell.
Yeah.
So our coolers, our TVs, our refrigerators, our furniture, that kind of stuff we pay property tax on. And when it comes down to it, we don't have much.
Yeah.
Like we just don't have it. Like I don't have, we're not like a data farm or anything like that where we have $1 million worth of computers in the place.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we don't even technically own the computer system we have. That's a lease program thing. It's weird from our POS company and stuff like that. So anyway, so I don't know if he owned, like if it was like if they put Boyd's Jig and Reel 2 in the ground floor and he owns that, does the pilot apply to that too? That's a good question. That'd be something I'd have to ask Scott.
I would think it'd be separate, and now kind of like rethinking about it.
I would think so too. Yeah,
because that pilot, like I said, would probably only be for that entity.
Right, but there's a separate there's the tax increment financing, which is the TIF one, which is also going on in the region. That's a different one where the I don't remember how that one works exactly. And then there's a third one that's a sales tax deferment thing. And so some of what's going on down there does negate my original definition I just gave you, in that sales tax generated from the Boyd's Jig and Reel 2 that's in the ground floor of this building, that sales tax revenue is automatically earmarked to go pay off the loan that the city took. So yes, it is going to the city of Knoxville for into its general coffers per se, but anything that's collected, and there's a little map that's got a circle on it. Anything that any of the businesses that are immediately around it collect in sales tax, local portion goes directly to the sports authority to pay the loan, and not into the general fund to go into regular city expenditures.
Okay.
So yes and no is kind of the answer to your original question. No, yes, it does. It will have direct current positive impact on the tax base for Knoxville. But no, not as much as it should.
Okay.
Like if it was a fully private development, that piece of land, just the property on the land and the building that's on it would jump 10, 12-fold and go from the $10,000 that we're guessing out of nowhere to, $100, $200, maybe $500,000
right
in property tax, plus all the sales tax generated, plus all the other taxes are generated, and they would all just go to the regular general fund instead of into these different little places.
Right. Well, I think it kind of goes back it's my philosophical kind of viewpoint on the kind of like the pilot program. So I don't like the idea of that, if we didn't give them this tax incentive or whatever, nothing was ever going to happen there.
I think for the stadium one, 100% disagree. I don't think that's true. I think there are occasions where it is. I think like this building that's going down right off the Henley Street Bridge that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. The one that they've been fighting about, the people that live in the building that's going to lose their riverfront view.
Oh, yeah.
That one. Because they're going to go and ask for a pilot. And honestly, I could make that, you could see that argument. It's going to be real hard for anybody else to do it. But the thing about it, and I think that I think one of the things that's happening that's maybe getting missed in the whole thing is I think part of it is some bank fuckery. And so, like, essentially one of the things you do when you're doing a project like this, you go to a bank and get a loan to fund all the building stuff you do. And so when you go to the bank and present your plan to the bank, you want to say, we're going to build this thing, rent's going to be X, this is how much money we're going to make. And basically there's a percentage.
I guess I don't really understand how companies haven't gotten to a point that they can just buy the land, almost kind of like, house flippers do. It takes you a couple houses before you've got enough kind of bankroll to basically be able to, go in and buy houses for cash.
Well, it depends on the situation. I mean, I think on the macro scale, it was not advantageous for years. It would be now, but 5 years ago when the interest rate was 0 and you could get a loan for 2.5% all day long, your loan was cheaper than inflation. So if your loan is cheaper than inflation, you're actually functionally paying less every year. And so it's actually in the time value of money conversation, it's actually cheaper for you to take a loan and pay it off than it would be to pay it in cash. because even though you're paying interest on it, your interest is going to be less than the change in the value of the dollar over the same period of time.
Possibly, but then you could also have, a crazy spike in property value. Like most property values are going up.
Yeah, but you already own it.
Right.
So you don't care that you don't care that it goes up. If anything, that gets you positioned for a refinance on your loan.
No, I'm saying in the guise of buying it outright. Yes, inflation's going up, but maybe inflation is going up slower than the rate of property values going up.
Okay, but you're
where you haven't been having to pay off your principal, paying into your interest.
Yeah, but
inflation.
But if the value of the property
staying steady or going up, but the property value was still higher to where
right, but if the property
you waited
value
around to the right point.
If that property value skyrockets, you could still sell it and make that profit and just pay off your loan early.
Yeah,
like there's no doubt, there's no negative. Like when the greater economic market is in a position where your rates and your inflation rate are pretty close, or your inflation rate's a little higher, you're better off. I mean, you're always better off on some level borrowing the money if the interest rates are low enough, because your potential downside is that you're going to pay more interest. Like, because I mean, like that's my thing. Like, so that's one of the positions I'm in with my house. Is like I'm at like this joke in the current market. I'm stuck in my house.
Well, why would the bank? Well, I mean, yeah, I guess they're getting a better interest rate than you are just because they're borrowing from the Fed as well.
Right, and then
so what advantage would a bank have to loan you out that money if it's not cost effective to them compared to inflation?
But like
as well.
You said, that asset that asset's raising in value, and at the end of the day, if you default, they take that asset and sell it and get their money back anyway. They're protected,
right? But I think a lot of times they sell those at a loss. Because they just want to quick get rid of it.
They might sell it below value, but they don't sell it less than what's due on the loan.
I mean, sometimes a lot of collection agencies do that. Essentially, they'll buy it for, say you owe $5,000 or whatever. A company may buy that quote unquote $5,000 debt for $3,000. And some companies are just happy to get something. Right. Yeah,
but that's it. Like those kind of that's I wouldn't think that's generally how that high end stuff works. But again, on the other side of it too is like you said, they're borrowing it from the Fed on the other side. Their loans are insured third party, so if you default and they can't sell it, like they can sell it at a loss and still make money off of it because their insurance claim kicks in and covers the difference.
I wonder how much they're insured for. Because as an individual, we're up to like $250,000
per financial institution,
right? But I wonder how much banks are insured for.
But the banks do the same thing too. The assets that they have them held in a bunch of different places and stuff like that. So it's not like I don't know that I don't believe that there are any banks that have $10 million in the safe in the back of the building.
Oh, hell no! Right.
And you've got like banks like First Tennessee, who have I don't know how I think they're First Horizon now. I think they're up to over like $1 trillion in assets. And that's either like assets to them are liabilities due. So anybody who has a loan with them,
right? But also all the collaterals,
right? But all the collaterals for any loans that are out. And so like in a pinch, they've got ways to get their money to where they need to get it to.
I got way in the weeds.
No, it's great. I like it because again, I think it's interesting. The important thing, like the bottom line to again, I agree. Need is not the word I would use for the stadium process. I think it was a want that had sellable investment politics. Like you could sell that this is an investment in near downtown Knoxville and trying to get this one little blighted corner of the old city downtown to come up and be pretty and be a cool economic engine and make us money and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Makes Knoxville more attractive for all these people who are coming here fucking anyway. We did that. I did that show with Lauren Ryder and her cousin. Did you ever go back and listen to that one? It was forever ago. That was before. That was
maybe a little bit of it.
That was when we were in process. So her cousin's in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they did a similar thing that what we just did to get whatever their Fort Wayne baseball team is, a new stadium on the riverfront. It's a big thing. And it was really fun because they were just regular people that lived there. They weren't politically connected. The only politician they knew was their cousin Lauren, who was a city councilor in Knoxville.
Right.
And so it's interesting to talk to them about it because it's just as the layperson's perspective on it. And they're like, as far as we could tell, it was a huge investment, but it seems worth it. Like, we go down there and hang out now. We never went down to that neighborhood before. There's businesses down there. There's stuff going on down there. The city at least is stating that they're more financially stable on the other side of it and this, that, and the other. And I was like, this is all interesting. This is all super cool. And then I was like, Lauren, I don't know where Fort Wayne was before this thing happened, but do you think Fort Wayne and Knoxville are in the same position? She's like, absolutely not. Knoxville is a much stronger city than Fort Wayne was and is to this day. It's a much larger city. It's much more vibrant. There's more industry and stuff that we do here than Fort Wayne does. This, that, and the other. And I was like, all right, all that cool stuff that made me feel better about the stadium just went out the window because I think you're right. I think Boyd wanted to move it back here, and he was going to do it anyway. Was he going to do it right there? Was he going to do it how he was going to do it? Maybe not. But I think he wanted to do it, period, full stop. He wanted them back in Knoxville.
I don't think he would have done it downtown. Unless there was already talk of investment. I mean, because they built up the old city. I don't know if there was any plans to really expand any of that.
I mean, I would argue that everybody knew it already. Like, this was a deal done in 2010. Like, everybody knew it. It was just waiting for the timing of when Boyd was going to pull it. Because there were people doing stuff down there that didn't make a lot of sense to me.
I think they moved out in the late 90s, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was a known in the circles. I think everybody knew it was coming. And I think that's the question: is if
I'm sure if you go back 5 years, I'm sure people looked at it. They're like, oh, well, his lease is up in Kodak here in 5 years.
Right, but I think too, realistically, like, if you're Boyd, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do it this way? Kodak built you yours there, like. That's why they moved out there in the first place.
Really? I don't know.
Yeah, if I understand the history correctly, they were out there just a little bit further east from where they're building this new one. That stadium's still there. It's right off Magnolia.
Oh, I was thinking they played it like Lindsey Nelson or something downtown.
No, it's still there, somewhat at least. Maybe they finally tore it down. It was still there recently. Anyway, it is that they wanted a new stadium. The stadium that was down there was built in the 60s. And it was old and dumpy and falling apart and whatever, and they wanted a new stadium built. And the city of Knoxville was like, nah, that ain't me. And they're like, are you sure? And so Sevierville came along and was like, yeah, come on.
It's an interesting story. I think it was some town in California. I don't think it was a major city, but had a minor league, beautiful, beautiful stadium, state-of-the-art damn near. But it was built on, VA land. And there was, I guess there's some kind of state law that basically, I guess there were a bunch of homeless people. They wanted a shelter to get built there, or have some kind of housing. But I guess there's some kind of state law that, if there's space available or something like that, that VA takes precedent over, I guess, whoever was there. I guess the city that, decided to build a park there when it was supposed to be, VA land for, building some kind of facility or VA housing,
so
et cetera.
The VA took it back and they got people living in the dark?
I think they're trying to sue them for basically, breach of some kind of law or some kind of agreement with the city that, you were supposed to at least save some of the VA land for VA purpose, where it sounds like a good chunk of this VA land is a giant, baseball park. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know. I think going back a second too, I think one of the things, the reason I brought up the banks part that we didn't get to, I think the banks have parameters that they set to lend these developers, and I think over time they've adjusted and are kind of forcing these pilots. Because that's one of the things that they talk about a lot when they're doing these pilot programs, is that it's
also putting money through the banking system.
Well, not that. It's just that the banks, to go get a loan, you need to be able to show X. And how much you're going to buy, how much you're going to sell, how much once you get it up and running, how much is rent going to come out to, and all that kind of stuff. And so basically, it's your debt to income conversation. When you build it, when you get tenants in it, how much money are you going to be making versus how much is the loan payment going to be? And there's a ratio that they want to see, or there's a percentage over the loan that they want to see. So if you're at 80% occupancy, we don't want the loan payment to exceed 90% or whatever of your
earnings, or whatever.
Of your potential earnings or something like that. And so again, Scott knows this to a T, and I can't remember what it is, but anyway, there's a number they're looking for, and that pilot often breaks that tie. They're like, a lot of times these developers are doing this thing and they're building them out and they're running all the numbers out and they're real tight on whatever that number the banks require. And you put the pilot in there, which means they don't have that property tax that brings that number down a little bit so that they have enough room to be in that window that the banks require. And it seems to me like that, it feels to me at least like the banks know that. And
I'm sure the developers probably also know that as well whenever they're looking at speccing out a job.
Right.
They probably know how much going into, like how much they're going to need to ask for, what kind of numbers they need to be within to be able to make a good argument to get that loan.
But the return is that at least in the most recent ones the cities have done, not including the stadium project, is part of the return is the cities that you have to have a certain percentage of workforce housing. And so basically like the Hatcher Hill property that's right there on the corner of Gay Street and Summit Hill, across from that park that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
That they're going to build this multi-use building in and stuff like that. Like it's going to be like a 9-story building, ground floor, whatever, second floor, commercial office space. Third and fourth floor are going to be affordable housing, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are going to be like luxury apartments.
Yeah.
And so floors 3 and 4 are going to be smaller apartments and more squeeze onto the floor or whatever it is. It's not like they're all going to be luxury apartments that are just going to rent cheaper, but the city said you want a pilot, you got to have a certain percentage of workforce housing. They're doing the same thing with that project over there on Henley Street, right off Henley Street that we were talking about as well. And so it's like, when you get into this kind of back and forth, hell, especially that riverfront one, I would think you could get away with some pretty high dollar fucking apartments in there.
Right.
That don't even need to be that luxurious of apartments. If they're riverside of that building.
And that's where I would kind of give the example that I'm sure eventually somebody's going to want to scratch up some money to put some nice apartments right there.
Right. But, it's been there for a long time. It's been on the market for a long time, and nobody's
I don't know who's owned it for that long. Maybe somebody that owned that property has just been waiting to sell it. Just waiting for the right price. They're like, the price is double, but I'm going to wait for it to triple before I sell it.
There's always a number that gets them out.
Hell, his property tax on that parking lot probably isn't much. It's prime location, but as far as what that property's worth with just fucking asphalt and paint lines on it, it's probably not that much.
No, it's probably not bad at all. I for that one particularly, I don't know. My personal take on it is that nobody had the vision to try anything because it's a weird piece of land. It's a very small. It's on a
right, but it's still riverfront. You could find something to put there. Or you could figure out something to put there.
Obviously, yeah, you did.
Right.
But I think this was the first person who looked at it and had some inspired vision and be like, yeah, I think there's 1,000 people that drove by it and said it'd be cool if something was built there.
But it's also kind of coincided with talk of building up the entertainment district with with Nayland right there.
Yeah, which I hope doesn't happen, but it's gonna. I hate it. I hate it.
So I'm saying a lot of developers, like, they know.
Oh yeah,
they know what's getting ready to be built up.
Sure, and I think I whether it's behind the curtain or out in front of everybody, I think it's pretty clear that Knoxville is on a particularly strong urban upswing. Knoxville at large is on an upswing period. Knox County at large is on an upswing period. But I think there's a greater urbanization desire from tenants than there used to be. I think generally southern cities tend to be really sprawled out.
Yeah,
even the big ones.
Even Knoxville's still very spread out.
Yeah, but I think I'll give kudos to Knoxville for trying for like it feels. I like the idea of like pack it in down there. Let's do it. Let's not keep spreading it out. We are still keep spreading it out. Knox County's planning and zoning rules make it real hard for it not to just sprawl and sprawl and sprawl.
Well, it wasn't really until the late 90s, early aughts that, where more people started moving into downtown proper.
Yeah.
For the longest time, nobody lived downtown, really.
And I will credit the West family as being a catalyst among others in making that happen.
Yeah. I don't know how much they had to do with the actual rebuilding of Market Square. I don't know if that was. I'm sure they probably definitely had an interest in it, but I don't know if they helped kind of fund some of because I don't think it was here by the time you had moved here, but I moved here in probably mid-90s. There used to be a big, huge, kind of square concrete, 70s, 80s style, Art Deco, kind of water fountain. It was kind of on the backside, opposite side of where the stage.
It was still there when I first moved here.
Was it? I know they tore it down whenever they kind of redid all of Market Square and
Yeah, they didn't do all the that was the early aughts.
Yeah, the early aughts.
They really started doing all the construction stuff down there. But I mean, I think that Cohen. I mean, I don't know. Like I was telling the story the other day back in. David, I forgot the name of the place again. Many moons ago, we used to go down to. It's where the REI is now. And they did karaoke, and it was a little shitty karaoke bar. And we used to go in there and sing karaoke and drink at 19 and 20 because it was the only place we knew while we were on campus that served underage all night, all the time. And so we'd go and sing karaoke, and you'd stumble out of there at midnight, not even really, really late for a bar, but midnight, and there were 0 people out on Market Square.
Yeah,
back then, when that big stupid fountain was there and the other stuff that was going on.
I think I remember a place you were talking about. It's not REI. It's a
Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
God, what was that place called? That's going to drive me nuts again.
I don't think I only went there a couple times.
Anyway, yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, I would argue that Sundown is what made it happen down there. I think the city had already started doing investments. The West family had started putting stuff in. Like it was a conjoined effort, whether it was an intentionally conjoined effort or, it was just different actors working independently for potentially the same end.
Yeah.
But yeah, downtown urban living in Knoxville did not exist until 04, 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah, you pretty much had campus was the most of downtown of people that were there.
I would be curious, my friends Will and who was it? Will and Jeff lived in a little apartment that was above the pizza place in the old city. Weirdest shaped building, it was just I believe it was one of those that 40, 50, 60 years ago when the old city was a commercial, actively commercial place, positively active commercial place before that. There was the restaurant or bodega downstairs with the tenant upstairs was the owner. He owned the building, lived upstairs, his business was downstairs kind of thing.
Right. I think I went up there once.
It was the weirdest, a triangle-shaped apartment.
I went there once, right before where our friends got married.
Yeah, it was a funky little place. It was a cool little place. It'd be a really cool place to live in now, and especially I would assume that the landlord has turned it into a nice place instead of this weird hovel that was when we lived there.
We knew someone that lived just a few doors up from, I don't know what it is now, but it used to be that little 50s-looking diner. I think you were...
Yeah, Merchants of Beer.
Yeah. Just a few doors down from that, there was a nice, ground level apartment that was really nice.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so
it was kind of weird to walk out the front door and you're right there
in town. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get, the city of Knoxville as a entity is growing as an urbanized version. We have all this, and I think that some of that coincides with just the change in lifestyle that we are experiencing. It blows my mind. I was at work the other day and my employee was like, I'm going to order some food. You want anything? They didn't even ask if I wanted anything, which I thought was rude. But they were on their phone ordering food, and I was like, what are you ordering? McDonald's. I was like, oh, I'm glad you didn't ask me because I would have had to say no anyway.
Yeah.
To which they ordered some food, and it got delivered, and it was pretty quick. And I was like, oh, that was pretty quick. I was like, how much did you spend? They're like, $20. I was like, what? You spent $20 on McDonald's for yourself? It was 2 cheeseburgers, some fries, 2 pies, and a tea.
Right, but probably $8 delivery
with delivery
charge.
And tip. And I was like, that is fucking crazy. But that's normal. It was that was just there was nothing to them.
Right.
Not that the money wasn't anything, but that was just normal in their mindset. And so, I think that coincides with this urban living situation that a lot of people are in. And that particular person lives in a tiny house over on the edge of 640. But I think I use that example just to illustrate. I think that change in the way we function as people is very positive in the urban environment. If you live in a downtown, there's, if you have enough money, there's no concern. You can get whatever you want to eat whenever you want to eat it at your door pretty quickly.
Right.
And that expands to almost all things. You can get anything you want. You don't one of the things I'd always thought was downtown's not really going to thrive as a residence area until they get a grocery store down there. Still don't have a grocery store down there.
Yeah, Three Rivers isn't too far away, but it's also a little bit higher dollar.
Right, and you got to drive. I mean,
right.
You're not driving there. There's nowhere you can walk. Because sort of things.
There was is Publix still there on the Strip? Or at the end of the Strip?
Yeah, Publix is still down there at the end of the Strip. I mean, if you're going to drive, there's plenty of options to go to your store if you're going to drive anyway. Like, to me, like, I don't know, maybe this is like from watching Seinfeld with my dad when I was a kid, when I was younger, or Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one I like to watch a lot. It's funny. But, like, to me, like, one of the things that kind of dawned on me like a year or so ago in, like, urban living, when you get in these New York apartments that are like $1 million for like 10 square feet, you know, and it's like it's always this, like, you
pay extra to get a parking spot in that.
Right, but you always see these things where it's like all these neat storage things that people come up with when they live in small places and stuff like that. And It's like, I think about how much I go and get at the grocery store in one trip and how much storage it takes for all the things I have. And then I think about that. It's like, well, that's because I go to the grocery store once a week. If I literally just walked out my front door of my apartment building, and maybe even the ground floor of my apartment building or the one next door is a grocery store, I'm buying groceries for my meal for the night. I'm not buying groceries for the week.
Right.
Like, I stop by the grocery store on the way home and pick up the items I need to make dinner tonight. I don't pick up a week's worth. I don't go to Sam's Club and buy a pallet of paper towels. I just grab a roll of paper towels on my way home. I don't like it. My storage is the store that's just down. That's a very simple walking distance from the house.
Right.
And so, like that, I still think that's something that downtown Knoxville needs. I think that would be a great addition. Something right there in the middle where people can walk out their front door, walk a block or two, and pick up a bag of groceries.
I never went into it. There was some kind of market right there on Gay Street, across from like Downtown Grill and Brewery. It wasn't very big, but I assumed it was supposed to be some kind of like smaller kind of convenience marketplace.
I don't know.
Like more than a convenience store has, but you can still go into a gas station and get bread, milk, some of the staples. Yeah. It's more expensive, but
there's a little place out there that's got like cigarettes and stuff, but I don't know what all. Like
I said, everyone.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been in there since back when we played down on Grill and Brewery like every Monday. Oh, but yeah, I think it's a good thing, and I think going back to where we started this part of the conversation, I think the stadium's going to contribute to that. But I think this new building project, I think it's worth it. I think the pilot's worth it. I don't like it philosophically. I agree with you 100% on that. I don't.
No, I was more just kind of curious to see if it had ever been fleshed out in different areas, whether or not pilot programs were beneficial to the city, or if it was actually detrimental as far as 15 years down the road.
Right. Because
how much longer after that did they really start? Till they kind of get back to
right. But I think for this one, I think for what the city is, the policy that the city is leaning towards when they do their pilots, I think is it's an intangible number. As long as there is some sort of mechanism to make sure that they get their affordable housing in these places, and there's some sort of mechanism that keeps them in there long term, or at least for the duration of the pilot. I mean, that'll be the interesting one. Like this one, I think it's a 20-year or 15-year that they're doing for this one, if they get it. In 20 years, that's enough time that you would maybe do some remodeling as a landlord. In 20 years, do they kick out all the affordable housing people, remodel those all into luxuries, and then it's an all-luxury building? That would be disappointing.
All right.
Within the rights of the owner. I'm not trying to say the owner.
As long as they're done with that contract, I guess.
But that's the trade-off. But still, it's we need affordable housing, and that's that's a semi-long-term solution to getting us more affordable housing in the downtown area. And so but again, I don't know how you run the data on that. Because we didn't do the pilot. If you're trying to prove the other side of it, it's like, okay, if we didn't do the pilot, they built it anyway. They built all luxury apartments. They probably could have made their money anyway. We would have made more money in taxes in that period. We may have been able to spend that money on taxes on a different affordable housing complex or something like that the city managed or owned or got built or developed or whatever, and may be able to do the math to get the same number of affordable housings on the market. But that seems like a long, hard way to get to 500 affordable housing units, as opposed to giving the pilot out, demanding 15 from this one, 15 from that one, and then when you have all of them combined, you get those 500 affordable housing units that you're after.
Right.
But I don't know how you'd mathematically do that in a breakdown like you're talking about. Like for the stadium ones, yes, do the fucking math. Problem with that one though is I feel like that's a Pandora's box issue. It's already out of the bag. That's how everybody does it. You're going to be hard pressed to get a municipality to get a team to pay outright for their own stadium ever again. municipalities are going to be paying for them. There's something will have to fundamentally change, like some weird like federal mandate that no United States municipality and or state or federal government is allowed to contribute any sort of financing, tax incentive, or anything else to the production of a new.
Right. Well, it's started happening in different cities. Yeah, I think the A's moved. Where all these teams basically just are like threatening the city. They're like, "Let's you guys build us a new stadium. We're going to leave."
Yeah, I mean, but that's not new. They've been doing that for years. Like,
I think it was as bad as it has been in the past 5 or 10 years.
The Rams have been in 4 different cities in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know why the Chiefs ended up in Kansas City. There's you go back into the old history of stuff. I don't know exactly why the Giants moved from New York to San Francisco in baseball. I don't know the history of that story. But it was the New York Giants.
Dodgers. I think you're thinking of the Dodgers. It was the Brooklyn Dodgers that went to L.A.
I think it was the New York Giants that played baseball, and they left.
That was.
I think that the New York Football Giants were a new entity after the baseball team left. I think. I could be wrong on that one. I'm not 100%.
I'm not sure. I know, that would mean they would have had 4 baseball teams all in New York City, which wouldn't be completely unheard of.
Right. But the Oakland, the A's didn't start in Oakland either. They were originally from Chicago.
I mean, the Titans came from Houston. They were the Oilers,
right? And I know that one was the same deal. That I think that one was a little bit more complicated because I think the guy that owned the Oilers wanted to get out of Texas personally. It was. I think it was part of that game where he wanted a new stadium.
Now they have the Houston Texans. Where did they come from?
That was an expansion team.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, them and Jacksonville came in the same year as 2 expansion franchises. But yeah, I mean it's not a new thing in sports that's been part of the game, right. But it's gotten I don't know, maybe it's just gotten uniquely more apparent since we're in the middle of one locally and the state's looking at is doing one in Nashville too.
Well, I think there's also that idea of building bigger and better to where you want that new stadium, you almost kind of one up, whatever the newest stadium was.
Yeah. And for football, at least, you build a new stadium and it has a roof on it, you're going to get a Super Bowl.
Right.
And Nashville deserves, I mean, honestly, Nashville, I don't know why Nashville, that's the only reason Nashville hasn't had a Super Bowl is that stadium.
That's what I've heard.
Because there's no reason that the NFL wouldn't put especially now, Nashville is such a cool, hot city.
Had they announced it before? I think I did see it recently that Nashville is going to be one of the cities for the World Cup. Or at least for some of the World Cup qualifiers. I think also for at least.
I mean, I know they built a new soccer stadium there, which is crazy to me. That's crazy to me, having a separate standalone soccer stadium. No
Columbus
offense to
has
soccer fans, but.
Well, Columbus doesn't have a football team.
Football team, right.
Right.
I mean, come on. The Seattle Sounders play at same place Seahawks play at.
Is it Giottis Field or something?
No.
Atlanta does. And that's their brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right. But their football and soccer teams play there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a sport. Those two sports don't play as often. I mean, the fact that what is it, Phillips Arena? They're still the Thrashers are gone, right?
Right.
But I mean, at least
there's talk of them maybe getting another team.
But at least for a while there, you that's a bad example. Chicago has a basketball team and a hockey team whose seasons overlap, and they can manage to get both those teams playing in that same arena at the same time. Detroit and the Pistons and the Red Wings play in the same arena. Minnesota Timberwolves.
The Little Caesars Arena?
No, Little Caesars is I thought Little Caesars was the football stadium. Is it both?
Might be both. Yeah. I know their hockey place because it used to be Joe Louis.
Right.
Now it's Little Caesars.
Minnesota, all these arenas can split a much more schedually intensive sport. Two very schedually intensive sports. And concerts and stuff like that. But you're telling me a football stadium can't split football and soccer? Come on, now. I mean, hell, you got MetLife in New York that has 2 pro football teams that play out of it, and they do fine.
Yeah.
And I think one of the soccer teams plays there too. I'd have to check on that.
Not sure.
I mean, that is New York, where land is at a premium, and having multiple stadiums is...
Well, then half of theirs are in, like, New Jersey, not really in, like, New York proper.
Right, MetLife is in New Jersey. MetLife Stadium is in the Meadowlands. So, anyway, yeah. That part's ridiculous to me that Nashville has a standalone professional soccer stadium.
I just think it's crazy that, you know, a professional team can kind of have that much sway over a major city and be like, yeah, we're going to leave. Because they know most of the city is behind that team. So they know it's not an empty bluff because they know they would be pissing off a lot of people. I
get it on a top 4 sport concept. I do. I understand that. I can get behind the value. Like, I don't feel like that's, I mean, yes, it's dick swinging, but it's a little different. Like,
I mean, if the team's like really losing money and they really need another stadium, that's one thing.
A AAA baseball like half of these, is a little different, but
well, no, I mean, even in the major sports, like even in NFL, like I've never been to I don't know how good the Titan Stadium is. I know they want to have it redone. I think there was some story that the Titans pretty much they just asked for like a dome. They didn't want a whole new remodel, and they were like, no, we're going to give you a whole brand new stadium.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it's
like,
no, we just wanted like like $1 million to just put a dome on it. And they're like, no, you need a $5 billion stadium.
But I mean, again, for Nashville, like, you know, like, look, like, you know, for Nashville and what it does in the general entertainment, it makes sense to me as an investment for them. I mean, Taylor played 2 concerts there, 3 of her Eras tour there. She did 3 nights.
No idea. I was about to say, what else do they do there?
You know, like they do, like, but especially if it's especially with what's planned, you can do a lot of stuff. You can do a whole lot of stuff.
But fill it. I mean, there's a lot of big acts that come, but you still have Bridgestone that I think it's like 22,000 capacity or something like that.
This new stadium's going to be like 75, 80.
Right.
Which there's only a limited number of people in the music side that can fill that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but
how many big acts can you bring in?
I don't know, but I mean, again, with Nashville and the country music and all that stuff that they got going on there, I guarantee you they'll have plenty of stuff going on in there. Plus, you know, you can put some fucking some monster truck shit in there, and Vandy will come play there every once in a while. They'll host a bowl game. The Music City Bowl will play there.
Yeah.
They'll get a Super Bowl out of it. You could do a lot of stuff if the team is on board with it. Like, you know, like, which I'm hoping that the baseball stadium we're getting is going to be that way. If they're on board with keeping it active, they can keep it active. You know, you can schedule stuff. People will want to use it. I hope that this one in the Old City, they use it a lot. I hope they do a lot of stuff in there. I hope there's concerts there. I hope there's something in there. I hope there's something going on every weekend other than a goddamn farmer's market, which is already on the books. They're going to have like a Saturday farmer's market on the field. Yeah.
It's going to take away from the one in Market Square. I guess maybe they're probably just going to move it from there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Sunday. I don't remember. Whatever. They're going to do they're going to have a farmer's market.
Yeah, I know there was talk of it.
But, you know, it's a farmer's market. You know, you could do more than one. You can do a couple of weekends.
Maybe you can expand the space because, I mean, at Market Square, I mean, there's parking down there, but if it's busy, you're parking a little bit further away and walking just to get to Market Square to go through the farmer's market.
You're going to be walking to the stadium wherever. There's no parking down there either. The parking plan for the stadium is all the downtown parking that currently exists.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Which I'm okay with. I don't want another goddamn parking garage in this town to save my life. I would like them to do. I would really like them to put some shuttle systems and like some very intentional shuttle systems in place. That use surrounding commercial. Like I would love a game day shuttle for football that came out of the mall. I'd love to go to the mall, get on a bus, ride down to the football stadium.
It's possible. I don't know if we have enough buses to really do that.
Yeah, I don't know, but just like I'd pay $10 or whatever for a ticket that gets me on the bus that gets me to the stadium, and then that same ticket gets me on the bus to get me back to my car at Westtown. I would love that.
Right.
I would love that just in general, like not like just an express bus from Westtown Mall to Market Square, just on a Saturday, just in general. That'd be super cool.
I think you could probably use, I don't know how much that Big Huge Sports Park right there by West High School. I don't know how much that could use on the weekend, but that could be kind of like a big parking lot.
That's UT's intramural complex.
Right. I'm saying that could be a parking spot for game day parking.
Yeah.
Park there and shuttle.
Yeah.
Shuttle right downtown.
That would be a good one. I mean, I think there's ways you could do it that would be functional, just to get some of the parking. Just like I don't know. I look, I am as guilty as anybody else. I like to park right in front of where I'm going and walk inside, and then like I get bummed out when I go down to the holler and the parallel spot right in front of the door is covered.
You bastards!
It's like, I got to park in the back lot. Ugh.
Right.
I mean, the likelihood of me getting hit up for something from an unhoused individual increases tenfold when I go from the front to the back of the building now to enter. So that's part of it for sure. We ran a little long, so let's get weird real.
Let's see here. Oh, it's pretty crazy. Washington State woman calls 911 after being hounded by up to 100 raccoons.
Oh, breaking news. Sorry to interrupt your thing. They
blow it up?
They figured something out and you can go home.
Yay.
Let me pull this up quick. Evacuation called off near Lonsdale after bomb squad technicians clear box filled with dynamite. The KPD expected it to take longer, and it was dangerous and tense. But you can go home. Cool.
Yay.
I didn't hear an explosion during the taping, so they did it the right way. Anyway, she gets attacked by a bunch of birds?
Raccoons.
Say the headline again. I didn't hear raccoon in the headline.
I said raccoons, but I was just mispronouncing raccoons. It's a Trailer Park Boys thing.
Sorry. I don't understand Canadian humor.
Washington State woman calls 911 after being hounded by up to 100 raccoons.
Please tell me more. I want to hear about this.
Sheriff's deputy frequently get calls about animals, loose livestock, problem dogs, but 911 call they received recently from a woman being hounded by dozens of raccoons swarming her home near Poulsbo stood out. One reported having had to flee her property after 50 to 100 raccoons descended upon it and were acting aggressively. Spokesperson for the sheriff's office told deputies she started feeding a family of raccoons decades ago, and it was fine until about 6 weeks earlier, when the number showing up went from a handful to around 100.
That's the same family, bro. They breed pretty quick, don't they? Not like possums. Possums breed like crazy.
Not sure.
I
don't think they have as many babies as possums.
No, possums are ridiculous. Yeah. Like, possums are next level. But they're also, what do they call that? What is that phrase? There's a word for it. They're attrition breeders. Attrition breeders. A lot of fish do it. Like a lot of your schools of fish, they breed in such large numbers that the predators can eat them until they're full, and they won't eat them all.
Still enough. Yeah,
there's still enough to keep things going. Like possums are those have that trait or whatever it's called.
Put in a buffer of estimated losses.
I think they can kick like 20 out a year or something like that.
I have no idea.
Like rabbits are the same way. That's why rabbits breed so damn fast. Oh, I also learned this random factoid. Do you know what the longest gestating animal is?
It's like blue whale.
Let me correct my statement, because I don't know if my statement is going to be true. I learned so elephants are like 22 months. A squid is 53 months.
Damn.
And then they die, apparently. The moms usually die after birth.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Learned that on Jeopardy tonight, so I know it's true.
I want to say there's a certain whale that's like really long. It's something similar where it's like a year or two. And they also only have like one calf. That's why a lot of whales, have been on population decline, because they only have so many.
Right.
There's a few whales that they know they breed, but they don't know like where they breed.
Right.
Like where they, try to meet mates, etc. I think it's the blue whale.
Right.
That are pretty they're the largest mammal that we have ever known of. We still struggle to find them and figure out where the fuck they go throughout the year.
The biggest mammal on the planet we can't find.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't spot it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know what I would do if 100 raccoons, but I will. My public safety announcement on this topic would be: don't feed raccoons.
Yep, they're wild animals.
Yeah,
well, a couple people have taken them in as pets. And that was
crazy. I'm confident that's what that deer that was in my uncle's front yard when we went up there and moved that stuff.
All right.
I am 90% confident that that little family of deer was like, hey, when there's people there, we get food. Because my uncle had been feeding a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that's why that deer was just sitting there looking at us like, hey, are we doing this?
It's not uncommon, especially in a kind of a neighborhood.
Yeah. I did see some
deer
yesterday.
Stay close by, they get a little desensitized.
I got lost over there on the other side of North Shore.
I saw some deer when I got home last week.
Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 just like standing in the backyard.
There's supposed to be some like seriously good hunting up there in Oak Ridge.
They were pretty big. I couldn't see if any of them had.
It's a super managed. The population's like super managed. Like it's one of those that apparently they only do like one quota hunt, and it's a very limited quota hunt.
Yeah.
But it's a very easy quota hunt, I guess, is what they're trying to like. You pull that one. You plop down in some field wherever you're allowed to, and you're gonna see stuff.
All right.
That's my understanding of the Oak Ridge one, because there's no hunting. There's very little hunting in the Oak Ridge proper that's allowed. Knox County, you can. There's no rifle. There's no big gun or muzzle loader, but there is archery in Knox County.
All right, down there in Imes.
Yeah, I want to go. I want to go check that one out in Imes, just because I'm curious. Because it says in the field guide, in the Tennessee Wildlife Field Guide on it, that it states in there that there is signage for bicyclists instructing them that they need to wear orange if they're going to ride during the certain weeks.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, which is awesome.
All right, last one. Bathroom break at work. Swiss court upholds watchmaker's rule to do it on your own time.
One more time.
The title?
Sausage maker. What?
Swiss
watchmaker. Okay. P.S. everybody, I'm sober. I don't know why I can't hear right now. Swiss watchmaker.
Yes. Bathroom break at work. Swiss court upholds watchmaker's rule to do it on your own time.
Okay, you just enjoyed the pun. I get it. My bad.
No, I just thought you missed the title.
I did.
I wasn't trying to emphasize the pun.
No, I figured that you picked that one out on your News of the Weird because it was such a good title.
Oh no, I just thought it was interesting, like kind of like legal story as far as like employment law.
So basically, they're saying you can't use the bathroom while you're on the clock. You have to clock out, or
yeah, I guess it sounds like that's what the Swiss court upheld. Court where time is money for its framed watchmaking industry has ruled that a dial manufacturer was justified in telling workers, if you need a bathroom break, clock out and take it on your own time. It was within its
That's a tough one.
Like within its own rights to require staffers to punch out for toilet time.
I could there's part of me that can totally agree with that premise. There's part of me that's kind of opposed to that premise. Like, I don't know. I won't lie. I've had times where I've sat in the bathroom for 20, 25 minutes going to the bathroom, but not really. I mean, I could see it if it became an issue that it was regular, that you're listening to people for 30 minutes a day all the time. I could see that making that stand. So far, personally, I've never made anybody clock out to use the bathroom. I have made somebody clock out to go home and change because they had a problem in the bathroom.
Yeah. I made somebody clock out once because I think it was after a few times of them doing it, they were like going to get some food. And so I'm like, you need to clock out.
With me?
Huh?
At our place?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, I don't really care. That's much. Whatever. Anyway, that's the show, everybody. We can talk about my employees, your former coworkers, in the privacy of off-air. Almost Agreement, everybody. Almost Agreement at gmail.com. That was a fun show. I enjoyed it. Got deep in the deep weeds on all sorts of stupid stuff. And that's what we like to do. If you know anything more about, I don't know, property rights and, not property rights, pilots and TIFs, and you want to talk about it, give me an email, almostagreement at gmail.com. If you know something about the certificate of need law and want to explain to me how wrong I am about how I understand it to work, shoot me an email, almostagreement at gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can message me on Facebook. I might answer. You can go to Twitter and YouTube and check out links to what we got going on. Almostagreement.com, all the cool stuff there. Hollerboo 10/26/24. Soapbox Derby, looking for drivers. Street Fair, looking for vendors. We're going to have a dog parade. If you want to dress up your dog, you can register your dog on hollerboo.com and compete for the awesome prizes we have for our dog parade costume contest. And then hang out for a sweet rock and roll show. And then we got other stuff going on. All the businesses have their own Halloween parties that weekend as well. It's going to be a big, fun, super crazy night. Almost Agreement, everybody. Thanks for listening. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys soon.